I was the most evil and treacherous minister in history, as well as the powerful puppet master of the empire's politics. I was all-powerful, but the one thing I couldn't do was enjoy the intimacy between a man and a woman. So to fulfill this burning desire in my heart, I decided to activate the reincarnation ritual to start my life over. Even though the survival rate was only 1%, it didn't shake my determination. What's the point of having money, power, and elite martial skills if I was a man without his junk? At 12 years old, tricked by a corrupt slave trader, my private parts were cut off, and I was sold to the imperial palace. Afterward, in order to get them back, I not only consulted every famous doctor, but also dedicated myself to cultivation, becoming the supreme master of the palace. I even turned the mindless emperor into my puppet. But in the end, destiny didn't turn out the way I wanted, so I prepared for the ritual of reincarnation. In my next life, I wanted to enjoy the carnal pleasures with 3,000 wives and concubines, otherwise it could never make up for the regrets of this life. At that moment, the emperor came crying, saying, "Are carnal pleasures really that important? As long as you stop this ritual, I can grant any request you have." But I resolutely refused the plea and ordered my subordinates to forcibly remove her. Maybe because I had seen her grow up. Since childhood, I already thought of her as my own little sister. Even if her offer made me hesitate a bit, I knew deep down that the greatest sorrow for a man was to lack his manhood. Better to die than to live like this. So I ordered the sorcerers to proceed immediately. As soon as the reincarnation ritual activated, countless blinding rays of light burst from my body. When I opened my eyes again, I found an old man sitting by my side. Seeing him, my crotch tightened up, instinctively, because this person was none other than Wang Sun, the one who castrated me in my past life. I was so confused. Hadn't he been killed by mountain bandits? Why? Is he appearing here? Could it be that I wasn't just reincarnated, but born again? I hurriedly checked inside my pants. Thank God my package was still there. The old man watched my movements and asked, looking puzzled, "My child, are you feeling unwell somewhere?" Upon hearing that, I was stunned at first. Then I flashed a meaningful smile, saying, "Uncle, thank you for saving me, but my wrist hurts a little. Can you take me to a nearby medical clinic?" He faked concern as he helped me up and told me that his house happened to have plenty of medicinal herbs. I snorted coldly, then snapped one of his fingers, saying, "What you planning? To kidnap me and chop off my junk to make me a eunuch?" Hearing this, the old man was shocked and said, "How did you know?" Before he could finish speaking, I broke his arm with a flick of my wrist. Even though I didn't have my internal energy yet, fortunately I still remembered the martial arts I learned in my previous life. Then I said sternly, "I've been asking about you all over the palace. When I heard you were killed by bandits, do you know what my biggest regret was? It's you damn slave trader who turned me into a lifelong eunuch." After that, I twisted his neck and spat on him to vent the rage from my past life. I had power and wealth before without being able to enjoy it. Now things were different. In this life, I will live for the pleasures between men and women. 2 months later, I was climbing Mount Kong Tong. For this desire, I will persevere, because nothing was more anticipated than the pleasures between men and women. Even though I could enjoy it by spending money, I couldn't dedicate my decades of virginity to a pleasure so low end. I had to have a sweet romance with a woman who was absolutely gorgeous. That kind of mutual admiration was the double pleasure of body and soul. That was the pleasure between men and women I was searching for. So the most important thing now was to accumulate wealth and fame, and my goal in coming to Mount Kong Tong was to join the Kong Tong sect. Centered on Taoism, it combined the martial arts of Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism, and was considered a righteous sect in the martial world. But due to the mixed nature of its techniques, some mistook it for demonic cults and evil sects. If I managed to integrate and combine it with future intelligence, I knew I would soon become a great hero who would command the winds and rains of the martial world. This thought made me smile sinisterly. Shortly after, I finally reached the gates of Kong Tong. I bowed respectfully. "Is there anyone here?" At this child's voice, the old Taoist was astonished. Children, climbing Mount Kong Tong in the middle of winter. With no answer, I shouted at the gate again. "Mountain bandits killed my parents. Now I just want to become stronger to avenge them. Please, accept me as a disciple of the Kong Tong sect." The next second, the old Taoist appeared explosively, saying, "So little child alone on Mount Kong Tong, aren't you afraid of death?" I affirmed that, compared to entering the sect, these things were nothing. The old Taoist paused for a few seconds upon hearing that, then asked me to hold out my hand and arm. After taking my pulse, he knew I had used the ascension breathing technique. It was a method of mental cultivation through energy accumulation. He said, "Since you've mastered this technique, it shows you have a foundation in martial arts. Did your parents teach you all this? I nodded against my conscience and said, I only practice this to improve my stamina. The old Taoist began to introduce himself. I am Kuan Yin, the leader of the Kong Tong sect. Normally, joining the sect requires passing trials, but given your high potential, I'll make an exception and let you in. Hearing this, I acted very excited on the outside, but I secretly smirked with a sense of triumph because the nearly bankrupt Kong Tong sect couldn't afford to turn down a new disciple. So I took some time to do a few sets of Kegel exercises. For the sake of future bedroom fun, I had to train without stopping starting right now. But when I entered the Kong Tong sect, the dilapidated scene, before my eyes still exceeded my expectations. Even though the Kong Tong sect suffered heavy losses during the Mongol War 50 years ago, there wasn't a single building left intact. At that moment, the sect leader suddenly said he wanted to introduce me to a senior brother. I knew exactly who he was, Liu Janeway, who would later be revered as the Sword Saint. I could take this opportunity to win him over to my side before he became influential. After the sect leader's introduction, a violent snowstorm fell upon us. The next second, a blurred figure appeared before my eyes saying, Hello, junior brother. I am Liu Janeway. Seeing this scene, I was stunned. Why was this guy so handsome? It was completely different from the portrait in my past life. It seemed that the rumors of many women fighting over him were true. Thinking about it made me feel sick. Would all the beautiful women of the future belong to him? Seeing my strange look, Liu Jingwei worriedly asked if I was uncomfortable. I replied that I was just a little shy, but deep down I was praying that his junk was only an inch long. At that moment, Liu Jingwei suddenly grabbed my arm and said, Come with me. I have so many places I want to show you. After I nodded in agreement, he pulled me away, but being dragged by him like that made me uneasy. So I struggled to break free from his grip, saying, Senior brother, please let go of me. Seeing this, Liu Jingwei was stunned, then apologetically expressed his regret, saying, It's my first time having a junior brother and I was too excited. Did I scare you? After I calmed down, I apologized as well, telling him that I had overreacted. This wasn't the time to dwell on such things. For my future plans, I had to maintain a friendly relationship with him. Then Liu Jingwei began telling me about the history of the Kong Tong sect. After the Great War, only the Xuanhe Palace of the sect leaders and the Qingyun Pavilion for the disciples remained here. But believe me, the Kong Tong sect will not decline like this. The sect leader told me that during the righteous demonic war, no one expected the demonic cult to attack the powerful Kong Tong sect first. Hearing this, I interrupted him. As he was slowly leaning toward me, I said, I understand that you want to talk about history, senior brother, but let's keep our distance. I'm a little shy. At those words, Liu Jingwei looked a bit dejected, having no other choice. I stepped forward and said, Senior brother, I want to keep hearing you talk about the history of the Kong Tong sect. Hearing that, Liu Jingwei immediately cheered up, and I felt pretty smug, thinking that to butter up a boy his age, all you had to do was tell him exactly what he wanted to hear. But what I didn't expect was that Liu Jingwei got carried away and hugged me tight again. In broad daylight, two boys being so touchy-feely was just way too weird. At that same moment, the sect leader looked at the melting snow and sighed. It seemed that winter on Mount Kong Tong was coming to an end. He remembered that 10 years ago, at this very time, he had found the orphan Liu Jingwei. After discovering he was a martial arts prodigy, he had trained him with all his heart, hoping he would restore the glory of the Kong Tong sect. My arrival allowed him to interact early with a male peer, thereby learning ways to prevent men from discovering her female disguise. Back in my room, I was lying in bed, unable to fall asleep. Today was my first day as part of the Kong Tong sect, and it should have been a big day, but it was all ruined by that Liu Jingwei. He was the unmatched genius of the Kong Tong sect, a genius among geniuses. In my past life, his admirers even stirred up a bloody storm in the martial world. Because of him, he was a major player who could rebuild the Kong Tong sect without breaking a sweat. But what I couldn't wrap my head around was why someone with such skills, such character, and such looks didn't like women. They said he was obsessed with martial arts. But today, I finally realized that he was gay. I remembered in my past life personally seeing those fruitcakes who lacked any real masculinity, constantly trying new things, while chasing pleasure. But I wasn't gay, I was a real man, and I absolutely couldn't let Liu Jingwei have any inappropriate thoughts about me. Meanwhile, Liu Jingwei, who had hidden her female body, also didn't understand what was wrong with her today, making 2 mistakes with the newly arrived junior brother. Maybe she was just too happy to suddenly have a companion and couldn't help herself. Was this what it felt like to have a brother? Thinking about it, a blush crept onto Liu Jingwei's face. She hoped their future relationship would become close enough to walk shoulder to shoulder. The next day, the sun had just risen, and I had already cleaned the kitchen. I expected it, but I have to say the Kong Tong sect was seriously broke. But compared to my goal of becoming a great hero and marrying 3 or 4 wives, this was nothing. I had to cherish every minute and second to make a good impression on the sect leader and the senior brother. Thinking about it, I took the time to do some quick kegels. That's when Liu Jingwei burst in and said, "Little brother, you're making breakfast all by yourself." I hurried to reply, "It's just what I should do." Liu Jingwei beamed with joy and said, "This is the first time I've seen such a diligent kid." While nodding, I secretly sighed that his face was truly beautiful. If only I could have just half of his good looks. Reflecting on that, I said, "I lost my parents very young, so I grew up early. If my initiative displeased you, I apologize." Liu Jingwei hurried to excuse himself. "That's not what I meant at all. I just feel like we're both orphans sharing the same fate, so I wanted to help you out." That left me speechless. This guy has been apologizing non-stop since yesterday. Then Liu Jingwei offered to help me pick vegetables and cook. It seemed like this guy really valued the bond between a senior and junior brother. But also in my past life, the sword Saint Liu Jingwei only had one younger sister, the top beauty of the righteous path. But that was much later. In other words, at this point he only had me as a friend. If that was all, then I'd just play along with him for now. So on the surface I acted friendly, telling him he could just give advice from a distance. But deep down I knew I couldn't really be his friend, because I just wanted to use his future fame and reputation to attract beautiful women and make them fall for my charm. At that exact moment, the wooden utensil rack gave way and the heavy iron pot fell toward me. In that split second, a hand suddenly caught me by the waist and held me firm. It was Liu Jingwei who said, "Little brother, are you okay?" The scene was breathtaking, and for a moment, I blushed with embarrassment. At the same time, I caught a scent of wildflowers coming from Liu Jingwei's body. But I soon noticed something was off and said, "Senior brother, don't go any lower." Liu Jingwei quickly backed off, saying, "It's just a misunderstanding. I absolutely didn't have any inappropriate thoughts about you." I could only reply, "It's fine, don't blush, you're making it weird." Seeing Liu Jingwei so flustered, I also felt helpless and said, "Senior brother, from now on, let me handle this dirty work myself. Otherwise, if Master sees us, he'll definitely scold us for disrupting the sect's order." Liu Jingwei agreed, but still helped me finish cleaning up. 2 months later, Master was explaining the essentials of martial arts. Some said it was all about internal energy, so they were always taking elixirs and remedies. Others said it was about external techniques, so they were constantly throwing punches. But what was truly powerful was the perfect balance between internal and external techniques. Only then could martial arts reach their full potential, and the foundation was the horse stance. Master said, "You can't slack off during training, and your posture must be perfect." Even without Master saying it, I had no intention of slacking off because it was also about improving my stamina and strengthening my body for future bedroom fun. This struggle was definitely worth it. In the past, when I lost my manhood and became a eunuch, no matter how desperately I practiced external techniques, I couldn't shake that feeling of being androgynous. That was all because I had practiced that cursed secret manual. The manual that turns you into a eunuch. Thinking about it, my anger grew, and I secretly swore that in this life, I'd live as an alpha male. That's when Liu Jingwei suddenly came to find me saying, "Master said today's training is over, and he asked me to come get you." I hadn't realized it was already so late, but for me, this wasn't enough yet to be the party animal I wanted to be. Most important was cardio endurance. So when night fell, I went alone to a secluded grove. I never expected that someone would find out I was training in secret. He would scold me severely, but because of this desire in my heart, I still recklessly started my nightly workout. But before I could run very far, I spotted a familiar figure. It was Liu Jingwei. He scared the life out of me. I fell down without thinking and said, "Senior brother, why are you here?" Liu Jingwei scolded, "I saw you sneak out of Qingyun Pavilion, so I followed you. I didn't expect to see you training in secret. Master said that overtraining will only do you harm. I can't just stand by and watch you keep this up." I was extremely annoyed. If I had even 1 year of internal energy, I might have detected my senior brother's movements earlier through energy sensing. If he reported this to Master now, it would be a total disaster that would completely drain me. So I had to lie. "I'm doing this because I have no choice, because I'm not as naturally gifted as you, senior brother. I'm just a nobody, but I don't want to lose to anyone. And I don't want Master to kick me out. If I don't train hard, I won't even have a place by my big brother's side. So big brother, please don't say anything to Master about this." During My emotional performance Liu Jingwei fell silent, which reminded him of his own experience as an abandoned child. Because since childhood, he was seen as a monster. It wasn't until Master arrived that hope came to him, making him realize that he too was a person under this sky. So he followed Master to Mount Kong Tong. Thinking of this, he hugged me tightly and said, "I'm sorry, little brother. I didn't know you were struggling so much, and don't worry, Master won't chase you away just because you're learning. Take it slow. As long as you're part of the Kong Tong sect, no matter what you do, Master and I will always have your back. Whenever you feel tired, you can lean on me like this." At that moment, I still felt terrible. Did he really have to hug me just to say those things? No way. My first hug should have been reserved for a total smoke show of a woman. I tried to break free, but despite my efforts, I couldn't. Damn you, Liu Jingwei. You just took the purity I've kept for decades. Suddenly, I noticed something strange. Why was that part soft? Just then, Liu Jingwei finally let go, saying, "Little brother, do you feel better now?" Seeing his sincere face, I actually felt a bit of pity. I didn't expect that. Liu Jingwei, known as the Heavenly Martial Body, actually suffered from a developmental disorder, being an intersex person. Even though that part of him was soft, I was absolutely certain that Liu Jingwei was a man, because that was the result of the investigation by the Palace's intelligence agency in my past life. After a bit more time had passed, Master told me that my basic training was complete. From now on, I could dial back the basics and start focusing on cultivating internal energy. Liu Jingwei happily congratulated me, but I couldn't bring myself to be happy. While learning internal energy was a good thing, Liu Jingwei's clinging lately was becoming unbearable. Just thinking about it made me shake my head. I had to forget that. There were much more important problems than Jingwei right now. So I told Master that I didn't want to cut back on basic training, because most people, after practicing external techniques, just enough to maintain their physique, would focus their energy on internal techniques, swordsmanship and footwork. But I couldn't do that. I said, I'm just average. Only by working harder than everyone else can I help senior brother rebuild the sect. Even if this method is inefficient, when facing the same technique, the stronger side will have the edge. In reality, I thought only external techniques could build the perfect physique to attract women. Otherwise, with my current face, no matter how hard I tried to simp for them, I couldn't change the fact that I'm not as handsome as Liu Jingwei. So a perfect physique and God-tier stamina were the keys to my future happiness. So I firmly requested, Master, please allow me to continue training in external techniques. This left Master quite stunned. He thought, has Zixiu already realized his talent is just ordinary? Although this idea was the wrong answer for those prestigious sects, it was the optimal solution to rebuild the declining Kong Tong sect. So he handed me a secret manual and said, take this. It's the mental cultivation method for the minor yang technique. The martial world is cruel to those without talent, but as long as you're willing to grind, you can become someone remarkable. Therefore, I'll allow you to train both internal and external techniques. I will now teach you the lower yang technique. Hearing that, I happily accepted. Once everything was ready, Master began to transmit true chi to me and guided me to move the energy according to the instructions. At that moment, I could clearly feel a warm energy pooling in my core. It was a sensation that I had never felt in my previous life. It wasn't the bone-chilling cold of the sunflower manual, but rather like gentle sunlight circulating through my veins. Was this yang energy? Then Master congratulated me on mastering internal energy. Noticing the changes from my past life, I breathed a private sigh of relief. Finally, I'm no longer a eunuch. When evening came, Liu Jingwei went to Master and shared his intentions. Master, I also want to increase my external training time. After all, as the senior brother, personally guiding my junior brother is also my responsibility. At those words, Master's face showed a hint of joy as he said, so you finally understand how to cultivate bonds, do as you wish. For you, these are all valuable lessons. After Liu Jingwei left, Master gazed, blown out the window, and couldn't help but sigh. Jingwei and Zixiu were so young, yet they were working so hard to revitalize the Kong Tong sect. This time, the late Grandmaster's wish might finally be fulfilled. At the same time, many animals mauled to death mysteriously appeared at the foot of Mount Kong Tong. Soon, a giant three-eyed python slithered past the carcasses. The next day, a family found their livestock pen destroyed. Confused, what was going on? This cattle was supposed to be taken to market today, but everything was gone. Then, unable to catch his breath, he fainted from sheer rage. It turned out the old farmer had planned to sell the cattle and donate the money to the Kong Tong sect. Even though his family was poor, he wanted to help the Kong Tong sect as much as he could, as it was his lifelong dream. However, his grandson was very perplexed by his grandfather's actions, saying, "You're sick right now. Why are you still thinking about doing that?" After saying that, he stormed out in a rage. Grandpa didn't take his words to heart, because the boy hadn't seen the Kong Tong sect in its prime. It used to be the #1 sect. To him back then, it was a place that sowed open dreams. But after the demonic cult's invasion, the once admired Kong Tong sect was forgotten by the people. At the same time, I was also training hard for my dream. Feeling the yang energy build up in my dantian, I was secretly thrilled. This sensation was wonderful. However, while using the minor yang technique, I kept feeling something strange. Was it because I had practiced the sunflower manual in my previous life? Master had said, our sect symbol is the inverted taiji. It symbolized the inverted yin and yang taught by the founders, water flowing up, fire burning down. In short, reversing yin and yang to create ultimate life. The ignorant thought our martial arts were like demonic techniques that violated natural laws, and they looked down on us. But the mission of the Kong Tong sect has always been to uphold justice and wipe out demonic cults. Thinking about it, I felt lucky. It's a good thing I joined the Kong Tong sect. Using evil to counter evil, that was the true martial art of a man. At that exact moment, a noise suddenly interrupted my thoughts. A young boy screamed at the top of his lungs, "If this is really the most righteous sect, please help us." Hearing the commotion, Liu Jingwei also came out of his room. After meeting us, the kid told us everything about his ordeal. Very confused, I said. "Your family's livestock was stolen. Shouldn't you report it?" The little boy spoke up. "I don't think this is the kind of thing a person would do. Even if they were stealing, there was no need to destroy the cattle pen. That livestock represented years of hard work, grandfather's hard-earned life savings. Grandpa wanted to sell them to support the Kong Tong sect, but the dream is shattered, and he fell ill out of anger. Please help us." Liu Jingwei and I finally agreed to go with him to check it out. But when we saw the destroyed cattle pen, I was shocked. They looked like the tracks of a slithering snake, and it must have been a rare giant python. So I asked Liu Jingwei if he had ever heard of a giant python living near the Kong Tong sect. Liu Jingwei denied it. If there were any dangerous animals on Mount Kong Tong, Master would have dealt with them immediately. This made me think again. Mount Kong Tong was a Taoist holy land, a spiritual mountain. Due to the spiritual energy, ordinary animals could undergo genetic mutations. Since Liu Jingwei hadn't heard of it, this giant python must have appeared recently. Thinking about it, the corners of my mouth curled up. If I ate such a huge python, my stamina would improve massively. So I accepted this job off the record. But Liu Jingwei seemed worried, saying, "Is it really okay to hide this from Master?" I said, "The people of Mount Kong Tong are seeking help. We can't refuse, especially such a filial child. If this is the work of a giant python, let's settle this together before there's more damage." Liu Jingwei finally agreed. After seeing the little boy home, Liu Jingwei and I followed the tracks on the ground to track the python. But Liu Jingwei was still uneasy about acting in secret and hiding it from Master. I persuaded senior brother once again. "Don't worry, we're doing a good deed." After comforting Liu Jingwei, I was surprised the python's tracks had disappeared right here. At that moment, Liu Jingwei behind me suddenly shouted, "Danger." The next second, the python attacked from above and bit me instantly. I was secretly thrilled. As long as I survived this crisis, not only could I improve my stamina, but I might also find the ultimate techniques of the Kong Tong sect, just like in my previous life. Then Liu Jingwei rushed in with his sword to save me. But after just one strike, he was completely shocked because the python's scales were too hard. That attack caused no damage at all. Instead, he was violently knocked back by a tail whip. Seeing that, Liu Jingwei was helpless. I grabbed a stake and drove it into the python's eye. Amidst a howl of pain, I took the chance to pull away. That's when I realized the snake had poisoned me. When Liu Jingwei reached me, I quickly warned him to be careful, as we were now the targets of an enraged python. Liu Jingwei told me that the python's body was incredibly tough, and its attack speed was lightning fast. We had to find its weakness and kill it with one blow. Hearing this, I quickly thought of a counter strategy. The current Liu Jingwei hadn't fully matured yet, and was no match for the python at all. I had the foundation of internal energy from my past life, so even though I was poisoned, I could hold out for a bit, but if Liu Jingwei got poisoned too, we'd both die here today. I had to create an opening for him to strike, so I shed my outer layers and said, "Senior brother, I'll distract it. Use the lower yang technique to boost the sword's destructive power. Sword destroyer. Then seize the chance to finish it off." Liu Jingwei was stunned hearing this saying. You're already injured. How can you? Before he could finish, I lunged forward in one swift motion. Every creature has its weaknesses, let alone a python, blind in its right eye. So I used its blind spot on the right to dodge back and forth. Soon I wrapped my belt around its head. Since the timing was right, I quickly signaled Liu Jingwei to act. The next second, Liu Jingwei circulated his internal energy and attacked with his sword. In a single strike, he sliced the python's head clean off. Liu Jingwei could never have believed the neck was the python's weakness. Did Junior Brother know this all along? And did he guide me to cut the neck? But before he could think further, I collapsed limp to the ground. At that moment, I felt my whole body burning. The divine doctor seemed to be right. Viper venom had a potent yang energy. But maybe it wasn't so bad. If I circulated my energy to expel the poison and absorb the yang energy, my stamina might improve. But the next second, I noticed something was off. Why wouldn't my body obey me? Liu Jingwei immediately picked me up. Seeing this, his eyes welled up with tears and guilt as he said, "It's my fault that Junior Brother ended up like this. I have to save him." With that thought, he laid me gently on the ground, then started sucking the poison out of my wound. My eyes flew open in shock. "Wait, my chastity!" I struggled and screamed, but Liu Jingwei thought the poison had reached my tongue too. He kindly helped by sucking on that as well. This left me completely speechless. Liu Jingwei, you total weirdo. A moment later, we started to harvest the delicious snake meat, but the memory of that scene made me feel nauseous. Liu Jingwei, who was checking my pulse, told me my body was fine. But what confused him was, it was my idea to skin and eat the snake since he had never had any before. I told him that snake meat was a type of food that was very restorative. Not only was it highly nutritious, but it could also replenish one's stamina. Once we had our fill, we followed the python's tracks back to its lair, a cave on the mountainside. Liu Jingwei told me he felt a powerful spiritual energy there. I sighed inwardly, impressed by his keen energy perception. In my previous life, he must have found this place thanks to that ability. Then we entered the cave together. Liu Jingwei guessed that it was the legendary Guangcheng Grotto. The so-called Guangcheng Grotto was where the ancestors of the Kong Tong sect used to cultivate. Legend had it that 300 years ago, the greatest master of the Kong Tong sect ascended to immortality in such a place. Hearing that, I couldn't help but lick my lips. There must be plenty of elixirs here to help me regain my strength. Right then, Liu Jingwei suddenly discovered a box of elixirs scattered on the ground. I'm certain of it. The python from before had eaten these elixirs, and after absorbing all that spiritual energy, it had transformed into a giant python. We quickly reached the back of the cave. Facing this magnificent architecture, I couldn't help but admire it. That was when the secret manuals on the table caught the attention of Liu Jingwei. The formula of the 3 yins, the 7-kill sword, the mysterious sky sword, the finger of Zhenyang, and so on. All of them were secret manuals long lost by the Kong Tong sect. This made Liu Jingwei, it's even more certain, that this was where the ancient masters practiced in the Guangcheng Grotto. He shared this great news with me. Overjoyed, I said enthusiastically, "This means the cave must still be hiding many treasures. How about we split up?" After Liu Jingwei agreed, I was the first to take off. I couldn't waste any more time. I had to find the elixir before him because absorbing it sooner meant having the strength to protect my purity and getting closer to my goal. My hard work finally paid off. I finally found the elixir. Meanwhile, Liu Jingwei also found a hot spring, but as he was about to investigate, my scream caught his attention. Liu Jingwei thought I was in danger and rushed over, but the scene before his eyes left him shocked. It was the sacred water of Maitreya. It was formed by extreme yin energy, accumulated over thousands of years. The best elixir in the world, the extreme yin energy it contained was completely toxic to male virility, providing 0 benefits. At that moment, Liu Jingwei stepped forward with concern. "Little brother, you okay?" I thought something terrible had happened. But to me it was practically a major tragedy. Because once a man's body accumulates yin energy, his body would gradually transform into that of a woman. If I absorbed the sacred water of Maitreya, all my previous efforts would go down the drain. After my narrow escape, I couldn't hold back my tears of excitement. But it was a shame to let such an elixir go to waste. So I calmed down and suggested to Liu Jingwei, "Big brother, there's so much sacred water here. Enough to open up a person's brain and do meridians. How about you take this elixir?" Liu Jingwei immediately refused. "You found it first. You should take it," I continued. "Wasting such an elixir on a novice like me would be a total waste. But if we share it, its effects will be diluted. So to revitalize the Kong Tong sect, you must take it all yourself." Liu Jingwei hesitated and then refused. Your talent is too low. You need the elixir more. I can reach a higher realm through training. So you should. Take this medicine so you can stand by my side in the future. Hearing this, I was stunned. This blockhead really took my old lies seriously. In that case, I had no choice but to use my trump card. I slowly pulled his hand, saying, Big brother, if I'm the one asking. I want to give this elixir to you. I'm doing all this for you. Right after saving Chu Shaolan from the burning kitchen, she said with a face full of remorse, I have to go put out the fire. I immediately said, what matters right now isn't the kitchen. It's you. You have to remember that you are what's most important. Hearing this, Chu Shaolan's eyes instantly widened and a blush involuntarily crept onto her face. Liu Jingwei rushed over, saw the scene, and dropped his water bucket. He said, little brother, why are you holding Miss Shu? I was startled and said, I saved Miss Shu and couldn't help but act a bit forward. Believe me, I didn't do anything. Shameful. Seeing me so quick to explain myself. Blush rose to the face of Liu Jingwei. This left me totally confused. I was just stating the facts. So what was wrong with him? At that moment, I suddenly thought of something. Could the rumors from my past life be true? That the reason Liu Jingwei was so cold toward women was because he had a secret relationship with Chu Shaolan's younger sister. At that thought, I was appalled. I almost let my guard down. I had to split them up, no matter what. So I approached him. Kneeling on the ground, I said, thanks to senior brother's massage, I'm feeling much better now. Let's quickly take care of the kitchen. Then let's go train together. Hearing this, Liu Jingwei was overjoyed and said, really, that's awesome. Seeing that I felt helpless. If I didn't want to lose to my senior brother-in-law, I had no choice but to become an exceptional martial artist. It was the first time the reformed Kong Tong sect would be revealed to the world, so I had to change everyone's perception of the Kong Tong sect. The scene shifted as the leader of the Black Dragon Gang, Wei Tianming, was holding a meeting regarding the martial arts competition ceremony. At that moment, an elder said, why accept a challenge from the insignificant Kong Tong sect? Another bearded man added, exactly. Give the order. I'll tear those arrogant fools to pieces. Wei Tianming motioned for everyone to be quiet. Then he announced, accept the proposal from the Kong Tong sect for a martial arts challenge. The elders were all perplexed. Wei Tianming said, it's impossible for the lowly Kong Tong sect to challenge the Black Dragon Gang, but the Kong Tong sect's proposal actually plays right into our hands. As he said that, he slammed the table and stood up. He said, if we defeat the Kong Tong sect, fair and square the Simon family won't be able to interfere in our business anymore. At those words, the elders said, the leader is truly wise. Whom shall we send? Wei Tianming thought for a moment and said, since this is a battle between young talents, let's leave it to the gang's young leaders. The scene shifted to the training grounds of the Black Dragon Gang. Wei Shaolan, the young leader of the Black Dragon Gang, stared sternly at the horizon. A second later, several burly men charged at him with swords in hand. However, Wei Shaolan easily ended the fight with a single strike. She said, what a bunch of idiots. Is that all you've got? That's when a subordinate suddenly came to report. Young master, the gang leader, has given you a task. The time has come. Late at night, sitting cross-legged, in front of the gate, I was meditating. At that moment, Wei Shaolan arrived as ordered and said, what a drag. They sent me to some beggar sect. Hurry up and call your sect leader. At those words, I slowly opened my eyes and thought to myself, finally, here it is. Seeing that I didn't respond, Wei Shaolan said impatiently, why are you just sitting there? Go get someone, hurry up. Maybe because she had been a rising star. In the evil faction since childhood, she acted very arrogant and rude, I said bluntly. And what if I refuse? Hearing this, Wei Shaolan said with anger, how dare you disobey my orders? Seeing this, I let out a meaningful smile. As expected, this kind of person with excessive pride couldn't stand being provoked, so I continued to push her buttons. A mere young gang leader giving orders to the leader of a righteous sect. I really don't know where you get the nerve. If you apologize now, I'll go easy on you during the competition. Wei Shaolan laughed out loud and said, the Kong Tong sect beating the Black Dragon Gang. You've got to be kidding me. My eyes turned cold and I said, if you're so confident, why don't we make a bet on the competition? Wei Shaolan asked me, why should we bet? I sneered, what are you scared? That made Wei Shaolan furious. Seeing this, I provoked her again. A Black Dragon Gang, that's too chicken to bet. With me is just a bunch of slugs. Seeing that the timing was right, I immediately proposed the terms. If we lose, I'll be your servant. An angry Wei Shaolan immediately accepted, saying, if I lose, I'll call you Big Brother for the rest of my life. Hearing that, I licked the corner of my mouth. Damn. From big brother to babe, then babe to wifey. Thinking about it was wonderful. Right after I got into it with Wei Shaolian. When he heard the ruckus, Master came out. He asked, "Did the Black Dragon Gang send you with a message?" Wei Shaolian replied, "I am the young leader of the Black Dragon Gang." Wei Shaolian, "Here is the reply letter that the gang leader asked me to hand over to you." To my surprise, she was actually very polite. Was she just baiting me earlier? At that moment, Master opened the letter. "In half a month, organize a competition between 3 rising stars of the 2nd generation in Huidong County." This really surprised Master, who asked, "You're accepting our challenge without any other conditions?" Wei Shaolian said yes. The 5 lower gates will witness for the Black Dragon Gang. Please have the Kong Tong sect find a referee as well. Hearing this, Master remained silent for a moment and said, "Don't worry, we plan to ask the Seaman family to be our referee." As she was leaving Wei Shaolian suddenly shot me a piercing look. I replied with a dumb look. This made Wei Shaolian flush with shame, and she disappeared from the spot. Then Liu Jinghui ran up. "Master, what was that racket?" Master told him the Black Dragon Gang had sent a letter and asked him to take one to the Seaman family. But they had no idea that the Zeman family didn't like this competition, and that senior brother might get picked on there. So I said this trip to the Zeman family will be the first. It's my big brother's first time out in the martial world, and as his junior, I want to go with him. At these words, Liu Jinghui was thrilled and exclaimed, "You're really looking out for your big brother." Saying this, he couldn't help but hug me and said, "Thanks a lot." The next day, after packing our bags and sitting by the gate, I couldn't help but feel hyped. Finally taking the first step into the martial world. Right then, Josh Allen approached looking troubled. She said, "Young Master Lee, I heard you were leaving. I haven't had the chance to thank you for yesterday. Thanks for saving me in the kitchen. After the inn incident, you've saved me a second time. My incompetence causes you trouble every time. I'm sorry. Don't feel guilty. You also took great care of me when I was hurt. You always work so hard. You don't have to blame yourself for being useless." I said, "If you want to change your fate, then officially join the Kong Tong sect. After learning martial arts, you could be the top woman, so value yourself. Being strong starts with self-respect, you get it." Josh Allen nodded gently and said, "Though I've never thought about it, since you're the one saying it, I'll take it to heart." At that moment, a voice suddenly interrupted them. "Little brother, what are you doing? Hurry up and let's go." It made my head spin. He really knew how to kill the mood. Before we left, the Master reminded us, "This is your first foray into the martial world. You must be careful." Later at the market in Huidong County, seeing the candy on the stalls, Liu Jinghui stopped. He said, "Little brother, let's get some candy." It left me speechless. We weren't kids anymore. How could he still be so happy over candy? But what left me even more speechless was the look on his face while eating that candy, which drew the admiration of several women. Despite that, I never let my guard down, because ever since we entered Huidong County, someone has been tailing us. Although he has no martial arts skills, his movements were exceptionally cautious and agile. If he wasn't just a thief, then he might be linked to the 5 lower gates. Was he a scout for them? This wasn't good news. If that's true, I need to flip the script and make the most of this chance. So I seized the moment and caught the person red-handed. I said, "Little thief, you dared to steal my wallet. I won't let you off easy." Then I drew my sword and said, "Someone must be backing you up. Now take me to that person." Soon, under his guidance, we arrived at an inn. It made me wary. The place looked like an ordinary inn from the outside, but it was way too quiet. I didn't see any customers either. Then a man said, "The inn isn't open yet. What do you want?" I asked. "Is this the Huidong County hideout for the 5 lower gates?" The man shrugged. "I don't know what you're talking about." But the very next second, I flicked a copper coin at him. Just as I thought, I said, "Impressive move. You're definitely a martial artist." Seeing he was busted, the man stopped faking. He pulled out a long, thin weapon, ready to strike back. At that sight, I flinched. It was a poison blowgun. One hit would be lethal. Luckily, Liu Jinghui reacted fast. Before he could attack, Liu took him down with a single punch. Hearing the commotion, 3 more men rushed out of the inn. Liu Jinghui faced the challenge head-on again. His sheer power even made the scene explode in a cloud of smoke. Seeing this, I couldn't help but sigh to myself. I knew he was strong, but not this strong. After Liu Jinghui laid everyone out to keep the situation from escalate, so I gave him a signal to let me handle the rest. Then I grabbed the steward by the ear and demanded, "Why did you make things worse? Not only did you have us followed, you suddenly threw poison needles at us. My big brother was scared of you." I said, "If you want to apologize, take me to your boss." Suddenly a voice entered my mind, Li Yushang. Stop bullying the poor steward. Come chat with me in the private room, on the second floor instead. Hearing that, I raised my guard. This damn small-town inn actually had an expert capable of voice transmission, and she only called for me, not my big brother. Was this also on the orders of Chifuyue? With these questions in mind, I went straight to the second floor. But when Liu Jinghui found out I was going to meet the expert from the 5 lower gates alone, he refused immediately. He said, "Little brother, it's too dangerous. This might be a trap by the 5 lower gates." I said, "Don't worry. Let's take this chance to see what they're up to." Seeing my mind was made up, Liu Jinghui stopped trying to talk me out of it. He said, "Little brother, be careful. I'll wait for you here." Soon I arrived at the room the person had mentioned, but before I could knock, the door opened automatically. Then a seductive voice rang out. "I'm so happy to meet you here." Clearly seeing this person's appearance, my face couldn't help but flush, though I already knew she was a courtesan. The problem was she wasn't just any ordinary prostitute. Her true identity was the second personality of Chifuyue, the number 1 in the evil faction. Although she said it was a chance encounter. I knew she had called me here out of stubbornness. And after seeing me sit down, Li Yuxiang's face blushed subconsciously while she thought, "I finally caught you, even though you passed the test of the sword of the flowering face fox. It's because you're such a pervert who gets turned on anywhere. I could never love a man like that. I'm going to test you again this time. If he can't resist the temptation of Lin Yuxiang, I'll make him pay a painful price." First, she removed her veil. Then she used her charm specifically to seduce the opposite sex. Then she flashed a confident smile. Her allure had already reached an exceptional level that made the opposite sex lose all reason. As the charm spread, my body also began to heat up, gradually. Seeing that the timing was right, Lin Yuxiang decided to test me, so she caressed my hand and asked, "Young hero, Li, why have you come to the 5 lower gates?" I'd say it's been a while, but just when she thought I had fallen for it, I directly pushed her hands away and said, "To clear some things up." Seeing this, Lin Yuxiang was shocked. The beauty's charm actually had 0 effect on him. I then continued the 5 lower gates. I've been tailing the Kong Tong sect disciples. "Kong Tong, are you planning to sell our intel to the Black Dragon Gang? If they knew this info, they could send assassins after us. Then the Black Dragon Gang wouldn't even have to compete and would just wipe out the Kong Tong sect, wouldn't they?" Despite my complaints, I knew the Black Dragon Gang would never stoop so low as to ask the 5 lower gates for help. So the truth didn't really matter. Since she showed a weakness, I had to seize the opportunity. No matter how powerful Lin Yuxiang's beauty charm was, it was useless on me. Although my body was young, my mind was the same as in my past life. Having reached the profound realm, Lin Yuxiang was just a small-time courtesan, incapable of shaking my rationality. So I said, "Having people tail us and using a beauty charm on me is way too offensive." Lin Yuxiang replied, "The competition has already sparked intense debate. Our sect lives on intel, so we had to act. It was in fact my mistake, and it has nothing to do with the Black Dragon Gang. Don't get it twisted." But she didn't get it. The smarter a person was, the more susceptible they should be to her charm. "But why didn't it work on him?" she asked, hesitantly. "Young hero, don't you feel any feminine charm from me?" I replied. "You're pretty. But if I'm unfazed, it's because I have 0 romantic feelings for you." At those words, Lin Yuxiang's face flushed instantly. She thought, he isn't seduced by me. Is he really not a man ruled by desire since he passed the test? I should reward him. At that moment, I continued, "Since you sincerely regret it, I'll forgive your rudeness. But we, the Kong Tong sect, have a proposal, and I hope you can pass it along to the 5 lower gates." And my proposal was related to this competition in the Simon family. At the same time, within the Seaman family, the steward informed head Zeman that the Black Dragon Gang had accepted the challenge. But they feared that if the Black Dragon Gang beat the Kong Tong sect, the Zeman family would have no more excuses to attack them. Head Zeman, Seaman Chuantian, said, "Don't worry. Everyone is watching the Seaman family's reaction. Without the Seaman's consent, the Kong Tong sect won't find a single referee." After days of traveling, Liu Jinghui and I finally arrived. Looking at the bustling and noisy market, Liu Jinghui was full of admiration, and the commoners here also recognized our identity by our clothes, saying the rumors seemed to be true. "I heard the Kong Tong sect is going to face the Black Dragon Gang head-on, and that they've apparently rediscovered some long-lost martial arts." Hearing that, Liu Jinghui was quite surprised and said, "I didn't expect the people around here to know us so well, but I expected it. Even though the Kong Tong sect isn't what it used to be, it is still the oldest one around." Shortly after we finally arrived at the Cheeman residence, Just then, the guard announcing visitors suddenly asked, "Are you also here for our family?" "Do you have an appointment?" I said. "This is a personal letter from the head of the Kong Tong sect. We've come to discuss the details of the competition with Head Simon." However, the guard didn't care at all and said, "It doesn't matter which sect you're from if you don't have an appointment. Then behave and go wait in line over there." Seeing this, Liu Jinghui said, "Little brother, let's go line up quickly or else we won't get in today." However, I stopped him right there. I said, "Don't worry, I've got this." I immediately scolded the guard. "This letter concerns a major matter. In the martial arts world, you're just a guard, how dare you ignore a letter from Kong Tong." Seeing my firm stance, the guard's tone softened. "But only those with an appointment can—" I cut him off. "Can you shoulder the consequences of sabotaging the entire martial arts world?" This immediately made the guard panic. He said, "Wait, I'll go ask the steward." Seeing this scene, I flashed a triumphant smile. Soon after, a man came out of the gate. He said, "Welcome. I am the Simon steward, Shiman Fang." I apologize for the guard's rudeness. "Please, young hero, come into the reception room," I asked bluntly. "When can we meet with Head Simon?" The steward politely replied, "The head is very busy. I can't give you a specific time." Just like that. I saw that although he was polite, just like the guard, he wanted us to wait. We came here to negotiate. We couldn't let them walk all over us before we even started. So I crossed my legs and said, "Please help me pass a message to Head Simon. If he doesn't see me right now, he'll miss out on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Hearing that, the steward was stunned. Then he willingly accepted my request. After the steward left, Liu Jinghui asked curiously, "Little brother, what unique opportunity are you talking about?" To that, I directly changed the subject. I said, "Senior brother, now that we have some free time, let's feast at this rich family's expense." But while I was eating, heartily the steward burst in. He said, "The head of the family wants to see you immediately." Shortly after, upon meeting Shiman Chuantian, we were about to introduce ourselves. But Shiman Chuantian cut us off sharply. "Enough with the useless small talk. Why do you want to compete with the Black Dragon?" "Gang," I replied. "Of course it's to restore the righteous spirit of the martial arts world." Shiman Chuantian said. "I have no idea what you're talking about," said Shiman Chuantian angrily. "Lately, rumors from out of nowhere have been spreading fast. People are turning the rivalry between the Kong Tong sect and the Black Dragon gang into a battle between good and evil factions where the winner will dominate the martial arts world. At the same time, the 9 sects, 1 gang, and the 6 great sects have all received letters inviting them to be referees. Is all of this just a coincidence?" Hearing this, I was secretly thrilled. Guji had really worked efficiently. It turned out that my previous proposal to the 5 lower gates was precisely to have them help spread rumors and to make sure that everyone knows about the competition, then to send letters to all the major sects to be referees. Lin Yuxiang said, "You want to blow things up so the Simon family has no choice but to step in as referee. But we, the 5 lower gates, never do business at a loss. Even if I accept this proposal, the Supreme Master of the Gate might not." But I was ready. I said, "Here is the payment. Please give it to the Supreme Master of the Gate." Lin Yuxiang showed interest and said, "Though small, a night pearl of such purity is truly rare." Now the Qingsheng and Ime sects were ready to referee. If the Shiman family, the #1 sect, refused, it would be too embarrassing. At that moment, Shiman Quantian directly exposed his theory. The 5 lower gates are experts at spreading these kinds of rumors. The ones profiting most are the Kong Tong sect, the Kong Tong sect, and the 5 lower gates are in cahoots, aren't they? Yet I said without fear, "Do you have any proof if it's just speculation? It's completely absurd." After that, I flashed a wicked smile. Supreme Master of this gate, Guji, intervened personally, so there would be absolutely no trace. As expected, Shiman Chuantian said, "There is indeed no proof, but spreading that this competition is a battle between good and evil. If you lose, not only the Black Dragon gang, but the entire righteous faction will be in crisis." Saying this, his right fist suddenly clenched. The next second, he violently smashed the table and said, "Since you want to compete, then let me personally test if you can really beat the Black Dragon gang. Besides, as an elder of the martial world, I must tell you that there's always a bigger fish." Shiman Chuantian was a master of the transformation realm who had perfected the tyrant's power and the tyrant king's sword techniques. He was only using 10% of his chi, yet my body felt like it was being crushed by a hydraulic press. Was he trying to kill us? Despite the pressure, Liu Janeway stood up with all his might and said, "Please, stop saying things that disrespect the Kong Tong sect. Even if the Kong Tong sect has declined, We still know how to face villains. Seeing this, I was floored. Senior brother actually resisted Jimin Chuantian's chi wave, a total genius. And Seaman Chuantian was also surprised. He said, "Not bad strength, but do you think that alone can earn my approval?" As he said that, he swung his left fist downward. The next second, a powerful wave of chi crashed down on our heads. The terrifying force shattered the ground. Faced with this, I couldn't help but curse Jimin Chuantian internally. Is this guy trying to crush us to death? Even senior brother can't withstand such force. Liu Janeway struggled to find a countermeasure. How could he get through this chi wave? Lesser Yang technique. 3 yin form. Blood reversal technique. Double harmony. Divine art. Then Shiman Chuantian said, "Where's that momentum from before? If you keep daydreaming, you'll die today." But Liu Janeway remained unfazed. There had to be a way. The Kong Tong martial arts produced a formidable, explosive power by reversing yin and yang. But were they limited to just force thinking about it? He suddenly remembered the encounter in the cave. The Emperor's unique martial arts, mixed origin sword, were more than just that. Some Kong Tong sect techniques seemed demonic, but they aimed to reverse yin and yang. The more one practiced the double harmony divine art, the more flexible these aspects became. He suddenly realized that Kong Tong martial arts weren't just about force, but were both powerful and supple. With the mixed origin at the center combining the principles of the double harmony divine skill and the blood reversal circulation technique, he immediately formed a ball of air. The next moment, he attacked Shiman Chuantian, and seeing his repressive chi disperse, I was stunned. My senior brother created a new martial art in such a short time. Seaman Chuantian was just as shocked. Could this kid have the celestial martial body at that moment? Liu Janeway suddenly said, "Do you still think we're acting with reckless abandon?" But Seaman Chuantian thought to himself, celestial martial body? That crafty old man was actually hiding, a little tiger. Saying this, his attitude immediately shifted. I'm looking forward to the match between the Kong Tong sect and the Black Dragon Gang. Evening arrived. Seaman Chuantian stood alone in the pavilion thinking, the disciple of the Kong Tong sect has the celestial martial body. Becoming the world's #1 in the future is only a matter of time. Will the Kong Tong sect really rise from the ashes? However, as the top sect in the province, the Zeman family absolutely cannot afford to lose. Just then a call suddenly rang out from behind him. After seeing who it was, he immediately flashed a gentle smile. Seaman Chuantian's youngest daughter, Seaman Shanghai, said, "I heard the disciples of the Kong Tong sect have arrived. How are they?" Seaman Chuantian replied, "Contrary to my expectations, they've got guts and I've accepted their match with the Black Dragon Gang." Seaman Shanghai spoke of the sect. "The Kong Tong sect that I admire so much, have they already left?" Shiman Chuantian said, "Since it's so late, they are currently resting at the guest house." Hearing this, Seaman Shanghai enthusiastically exclaimed, "The pioneers of the righteous faction, the disciples of the Kong Tong sect, who stopped the great demonic war, must be incredibly handsome." On the other side, I was training hard in front of the guest house. Thank goodness senior brother was there today, otherwise Jimin Chuantian would have definitely used that as an excuse to cancel the match. However, thinking about how Liu Janeway could instantly create new martial arts, I couldn't help but mobilize my internal energy, and that thing in me flared up again. What exactly was the problem? Just then a noise suddenly rang out from behind me, so I quickly curled up. "Is that you, senior? Brother, weren't you already off to rest?" But when I saw clearly who it was, that person shouted loudly, "Pervert, you're actually a disciple of the Kong Tong sect. I didn't expect to run into this woman so late at night." Before Chu Shaolan appeared, Seaman Shanghai was called the #1 beauty. Not only did she secretly admire the Kong Tong sect, but she later became a total fangirl of Liu Janeway. But Liu Janeway didn't return her feelings, which made her turn bitter and extremely temperamental. Right then she said angrily, "Bearing the name of the Kong Tong sect while practicing shady techniques. How can you do such disgraceful things?" Consequently, I immediately stood up straight and told her to take it back, but that only earned me another scolding. "You should first figure out how to handle that thing. So disgraceful." Once that thing finally went down, I said, "You understand the rules of the martial world too. Spying on others while they practice. Martial arts is a taboo." Seaman Shanghai immediately retorted, "Fast, impudent, you really have the nerve to say that you—" I said seriously, "True masters should be coordinated inside and out. So where did I go wrong?" She said, "You let a woman see things she shouldn't see." I wished I could hold you accountable right now. This annoyed me a bit. Today she needed to be taught a lesson. So I immediately proposed, since our views are so hard to reconcile, Then let's use the way of the martial world to distinguish right from wrong and settle this responsibility. Shimin Shanghai said, confidently, are you challenging me to a duel I also want? The whole martial world too? Know about your rudeness. Seeing that the timing was right, I immediately proposed the terms. What if the loser becomes the winner's servant, Shimen? Shanghai readily accepted, saying, I won't show any mercy even if you cry during the duel. Watching Shimen Shanghai's figure walk away, I revealed a smile. I could take advantage of this duel to submit the Zimin family to the Kong Tong sect. More importantly, having an extra maid would be simply marvelous. The scene changed. Liu Janeway and I started the journey back to our sect. This trip hadn't just solved the problem of the referee, but had also resulted in a duel agreement with Shimen Shanghai. At that moment, Liu Janeway suddenly leaned in and said, Junior brother, you're smiling about something happy, aren't you? I said, thanks to the efforts of Senior brother, we found a referee. That's something to be happy about. Hearing this, Liu Janeway smiled just as happily. Thanks for the praise, Junior brother. I'm so touched that you think so highly of me. I said all of this is because Senior brother possesses the celestial martial body. You even created a new martial art on the spot, Liu said modestly. It was created using the mixed origin unity technique as a foundation. It's still just an incomplete work. Do you want to learn it, Junior brother? Until you learn the full mixed origin unity technique. Using this one isn't half bad. Liu Janeway continued, you are my only junior brother, and I've specially created a simple mnemonic for you. Saying this, he began to teach me with great passion. I learned by his side, mastering it quickly. Although the mixed origin technique wasn't as powerful as the mixed origin unity technique, it suited the Kong Tong sect's swordsmanship perfectly. More importantly, by using this martial art, that thing in me no longer flared up unexpectedly. I didn't know the reason, but it felt like a missing piece within me had finally been filled. The scene changed. We finally returned to the Kong Tong sect. After delivering the good news to our master, he was overjoyed. He said, seeing you both perfectly execute your first foray into the martial world touches me deeply. During your stay with the Shimen family, the sect also received a lot of good news. He pulled out a stack of letters and said our sect's match with the Black Dragon Gang has actually become a battle between good and evil. The Qing Cheng sect, the Mount Mei sect, and even the Mount Heng sect are all ready to act as referees. Hearing this, I was quite surprised. The Qing Cheng sect and the Mount Mei sect didn't exactly get along with the gang, Black Dragon Gang, so their desire to be referees was normal. But the Hengshan sect had replaced the Kong Tong sect to join the ranks of the 9 great sects and held a grudge against us. Would the master of Hengshan Yin Shaolan actually show up after receiving a yes from my master? I immediately put on a thirsty expression. I didn't expect the opportunity to come so soon. I could finally meet my first wife candidate. At the same time, over at the Hengshan sect, a disciple was talking, hyped up about the sect leader's past. Back then, when sect leader Yin Shaolan was only 16 years old, at a gathering of young talents, she announced in front of everyone that she would marry the man who could defeat her. As long as someone could beat her, no matter who he was, he could become her husband. Hearing this, the disciples were filled with admiration. That's so cool, the woman continued. Decades passed and no one could defeat the sect leader, and our Hengshan sect also became one of the 9 great sects because of that. So we must be grateful to Master Yin Shaolan, our sect leader. As the door opened, slowly the first thing that caught my eye was a lock of silky hair as smooth as satin. It instantly exceeded all my expectations. But the next second, what appeared before me was actually a little girl, petite and adorable. Seeing this, I was completely shocked. The first flower was actually still a child, but I quickly snapped out of it. This was 50 years in the past. She should be younger than me right now. Although she was a beautiful young girl, looking at her actually reminded me of the emperor back then, which was kind of weird, instantly killing any thought of winning her over. At that moment, Shu Guangwan patted his daughter's head and introduced us. This is the sect leader and the disciples of the Kong Tong sect. Say hello, Chu Shaolan. She greeted us reluctantly. Hearing this, I froze. At first, and then I was completely captivated by her adorable looks. It looked like I had to take back what I just thought. She was going to be the future #1 beauty. If I wanted to become her good big brother, I had to start building a good relationship from the start. So I said righteously, I am Li Ju, a newly initiated disciple of the Kong Tong sect. It's an honor to meet you. But what I got in return was a look full of hostility, and then, without another word, she ran toward her room, saying, what's there to know about a pathetic sect that can't even protect ordinary people? Whether it's the Kong Tong sect or the entire martial arts world, they're all disgusting. Zhu Guanghuan apologized immediately. Please forgive her. She's just a bit shy around strangers. However, her behavior didn't surprise me at all. According to the information from my previous life, during a battle between evil sects, her mother was unfortunately caught in the crossfire and died, and the Kong Tong sect, the only righteous sect around here, hadn't been able to help at all. It was therefore perfectly normal for her to harbor such resentment. Later, after enjoying a hearty meal, Chu Shaolan appeared in my field of vision once again. Even though the results of this trip weren't perfect, I had at least met the legendary #1 beauty, so it wasn't a wasted trip. At that moment, Liu Zhenhui leaned toward my ear and asked, "Junior brother, did you like today's meal?" I was caught off guard. Then I quickly pulled back and said I liked it. I loved it a lot. Hearing this, Liu Zhenhui also smiled happily. Seeing this scene made me feel uneasy. He was getting more and more handsome. What if I ended up falling for him in the future? The thought suddenly made me feel sick. I absolutely couldn't let him steal the spot for most handsome guy, so I immediately suggested to the master if we could come eat here regularly. The master asked, puzzled, "Do you like the food here?" I said. "The food here is delicious." I didn't expect the Kong Tong Inn to have contributed so much to the sect's rebuilding. Seeing them gives me the motivation to work harder. Hearing this, the master satisfiedly granted my request. But what he didn't know was that I had already calculated everything in my head. Compared to my senior brother, who was the #1 beauty, building a good bond with Chu Shaolan first was the most important thing. When night fell, I started preparing for the next time I would see Shaolan. After practicing my Kegel exercises, to a certain point, the next essential exercise to improve endurance was the suspension exercise, which used the strength of that thing to support weights. Since I had achieved such great results from the secret cave, that thing naturally had to become stronger. With that in mind, I first took a deep breath. Then I began to swing frantically. Day after day, year after year, the hanging weight evolved too, going from small pebbles to large bricks. A year later, I looked proudly at the results of my training. Perfect. I was truly a first-class man of endurance. Just as I was about to use the momentum to circulate my yang qigong, the reaction of that thing down there terrified me. Damn it, the side effects have flared up again. It turns out that after encountering the mixed origin sword, embryo in the secret cave, my internal energy had developed a problem. Every time I used the yang qigong, that thing would instinctively stand up, and to this day I still haven't figured out why. If this kept up, I'd definitely be labeled a pervert. Right then, Liu Zhenhui's voice suddenly echoed from outside the door. It made me instantly furious. Why was there always someone interrupting at times like this? I had no choice but to open the door, in an extremely awkward posture, saying, "Senior brother, what's up?" Seeing this, Liu Zhenhui asked in confusion, "Junior brother, are you feeling okay?" After that, Liu Zhenhui told me he wanted to go out to eat with me. With that, he walked away without looking back. Seeing that, I felt relieved. Fortunately, my situation wasn't discovered, but senior brother seemed to have changed a bit. Was it because he wanted to see Chu Shaolan? Soon the scene changed, and Chu Shaolan brought some tea to our table. But before I could even thank her, she ran off without a word. However, compared to the time we first met her, attitude was obviously much better this time. But what I found strange was that the usually bustling inn didn't have a single customer this time. At that moment, Zhu Guanghuan greeted us. "Long time no see?" "The same dishes as last time," I confirmed immediately. But just as he turned to leave, his body suddenly weakened and he almost fell. Seeing this, I caught him. Seeing that, I backed him up quickly and asked if something had happened to the inn. Hearing that, Zhu Guanghuan decided not to hide it anymore. He said, "Our Kong Tong Inn might have to close because those Jingui bastards are constantly collecting exorbitant protection fees from merchants in Wading County to expand their influence. But a few months ago, they started targeting the Kong Tong Inn. Not only did they deliberately start fights at the entrance to hurt business, but they also threatened merchants not to do business with us. Without customers, the losses just kept piling up, and now there's really no way out. I'm afraid that if this continues, even Shaolan will be affected." Hearing this, I started to understand something. So Chu Shaolan had joined the Kong Tong sect because her father could no longer stand the harassment from Jingui. Jingui's backing was the major gang. The Black Dragon Gang and the already declining Kong Tong sect was absolutely no match for them. He must be suffering terribly right now, caught in these conflicts of interest with no other choice. Just at that moment, the inn door was suddenly kicked in. We looked over, and several members of the Babei Evil Shadow Society spoke with wicked smiles. "Didn't you say that if you couldn't pay yesterday, you'd hand over the inn? To us today, we've warned you so many times. Don't you get it yet? If you don't have the cash, just sell your daughter." As he said that, one of them grabbed Chu Shaolan and said, I never thought a guy with a monster for a mother would have such a pretty daughter. Starting, today you're working at our shop to pay off the debt. With that, he started dragging her toward the door. At that moment, I stepped in, suddenly spoke. Seeing this, the other two quickly drew their swords. A mere Kong Tong sect pipsqueak in the blink of an eye dares to attack us. However, the injured one looked at me in horror and said, that's not the point. That thing on this guy is actually standing up. Hearing that, I quickly struck a seductive pose. Just then, Liu Zhenhui's voice suddenly rang out behind me. He said, his face completely red, Junior brother. That was a martial arts technique you used to distract the opponent. Right. My heart tightened. Why was his face red? Was he really into men? At that moment, the members of Jingui suddenly burst into mocking laughter, saying, what a total clown. You look like a weirdo, but we didn't expect you to have such an impressive thing down there. Then their tone suddenly shifted, but you've made Jingui angry. You're going to pay a heavy price. Hearing this, I calmly picked up a spoon from the floor, saying, if you want us to pay a price, come and get us. But if you fail, you'll lose your family jewels. Upon hearing those words, the members of Jingui were all intrigued. Battle was imminent. So I assigned the task of protecting the Zhu father and daughter to Liu Zhenhui. Seeing this, Zhu Guanghuan asked, anxiously, can he handle them alone? Liu Zhenhui said, don't worry, although my junior brother just made a fool of himself. He's still very capable. At that point, the members of Jingui also began to attack me. After easily dodging a blow, I took the chance to strike back. With a single move, I instantly crushed 3 pairs of family jewels. Just then, the master pushed the door open and said, sorry I'm late. I just met a merchant willing to provide financial support to the sect. But when he saw the chaotic scene inside, the gruesome sight made his lower abdomen instinctively tighten. After learning about the whole situation, the master said, ridiculous. Do you know what kind of consequences this will bring? Hearing this, I immediately expressed my apologies to Zhu Guanghuan. I am truly sorry for causing trouble at the inn. And Zhu Guanghuan said, without you, not only would the inn have been taken by them, but my daughter would also have been harmed. Hearing that, the master said with anger, what a bunch of thugs. I'll deal with those Jingui bastards right away. Zhu Guanghuan said, thank you for your kind intentions, sect leader, but I don't want the Kong Tong sect to get involved because of me, if possible. Could I ask the sect leader to please take care of my daughter? The sect leader agreed immediately, but just then I suddenly interrupted them both, because even though Chu Shaolan entered the sect, just like in my previous life, it wasn't the best way. She had closed off her heart due to the conflicts of the martial arts world. So the most important thing now was to soothe the pain in her heart. People have 2 eyes and a pair of ears, not so that we can simply run away when we face problems. Seeing people who treat you like family in trouble and closing your eyes to it is not worthy of a righteous sect. The master said, exactly. I'm glad to see you acting with such integrity. So are you confident enough to face the Black Dragon? Gang, seeing the master agree, I thumped my chest and guaranteed, I want to issue a martial arts challenge to the gang against the Black Dragon gang in our sect's name. When the time comes, no matter who the opponent is, I will absolutely crush them, the master said, with astonishment. A martial arts challenge? Will they even be willing to accept it? Hearing this, I flashed a meaningful smile and said, then we'll just have to force their hand. Soon, the leader of Jingui glared at the challenge letter in a rage. Kong Tong sect was sending 2 disciples to face 3 members of the Black Dragon gang. If they failed, the Kong Tong sect would close its doors for 50 years and no longer interfere in the affairs of the martial arts world. But if they won, the Black Dragon gang and the Evil Shadow Society would have to pack up and leave Wading County for good. The leader said suddenly, even though these terms favor us, and we have powerful fighters like the evil Black Dragon Guard, led by Shaolan, we can't bother the higher-ups of the Black Dragon gang for such a trivial matter. Just then a voice suddenly echoed from above him. Turning around, he saw a pair of legs nearly 7 feet long. It was the Black Dragon gang's flowery-faced tigress, Liu Yaling. Liu Yaling said, accept their challenge. I'll be participating when the time comes. Hearing this, leader Jinghui said, our Evil Shadow Society can handle such small-time business. Liu Yaling cut in. The word is already all over Wading County that some kid turned members of the Evil Shadow Society into eunuchs with just a spoon. Is that right? Before even sending the challenge, I spread that news through every street and alleyway. I even claimed that the Black Dragon gang was trash too. Hearing this, leader Jingui dropped to his knees quickly and said, I'm sorry, it's Jingui who made the Black Dragon gang lose face. Liu Yaling said coldly, I'll handle this personally this time. Don't let this kind of thing happen again. Meanwhile, I was doing some Kegel exercises feeling pretty satisfied. This idea was simply perfect. Taking down a tyrannical evil sect for the people was quite a thrill. Just thinking about how the beauties would throw themselves at me after defeating the Black Dragon gang, that thing of mine unconsciously stood up again. Just then a strange noise suddenly rang out not far away. However, I wasn't surprised at all. So the person in the black mask finally arrived, even though I had issued a martial arts challenge. A big villain like Jingui wouldn't compete honorably. So they often hired men in black masks. But when I saw the person's face clearly, I was shocked. I never thought Jingui would have a female expert with such a seductive body. I remembered that in my previous life, during the battle between the Kong Tong sect and Jingui, intelligence had no record of any female expert in Jingui. Just then the woman suddenly asked, "Are you Li Jiaxue?" After my confirmation, she immediately attacked me saying, "Where did you get the confidence to issue a martial challenge to the Black Dragon gang?" After a few exchanges, she quickly gauged my true level. She said, "Your skills are decent, but nothing extraordinary. It seems this martial challenge relied on Liu Zhenhui's strength, with that she launched a new series of attacks against me." Seeing this, I quickly backed off to put some distance between us. Her strength was formidable. Who exactly was she? While wondering, the ornament on her sword suddenly caught my eye. It hit me all at once. "Are you the flowery-faced fox swordswoman, Liu Yaling?" Once she confirmed it, I thought to myself, "Damn, what is she doing here?" According to the info from my past life, half of her face had been burned in a fire, and she was notorious for being cold and ruthless toward men. Her most famous move was to remove her veil and ask men if she was beautiful, just to test their sincerity. And if a man failed the test, she would break him right then and there. What terrified me was that so far no man had ever passed. Right then, Liu Yaling slowly removed her veil and approached me, saying, "Since you recognize me, at a glance you must know I put men through a trial." Cold sweat beaded on my forehead. How was I going to survive this crisis? As I was thinking, Liu Yaling revealed her true face directly and asked, "Do you find me beautiful?" There was no way I could give just some ordinary answer. I had to say something that would touch her, because only a sincere response could reach her heart. Thinking about it, I let out a mischievous smile. To prove a man's sincerity, nothing was more authentic than this. So I said bluntly, "Master, Liu Yaling, you are truly magnificent." The moment I finished speaking, that thing of mine also stood up. Seeing the scene, Yaling said in shock, "You shameless brat." And I replied innocently, "Weren't you the one who asked me, your bright eyes, your hair, soft as silk, your face as beautiful as a flower, just too gorgeous. I swear on the sect's name, Kong Tong, you are truly beautiful in my eyes." Hearing this, Liu Yiling's face turned completely red and she fell into a daze. She thought to herself, "I am now over 60 years old. Up until now, I have asked this question to countless men. This is the first time I've met someone so blunt, but if he's lying to me, how could that thing of his be standing up?" Seeing Liu Yiling hesitate, I rejoiced inwardly because only I knew that Liu Yiling had a reason for asking men that kind of question. The whole world thought Liu Yiling was just a strange female expert of the Black Dragon gang, but her true identity was a top-tier expert who had reached the profound realm, also known as the #1 figure of the evil sect, the flowerless thousand-faced Shisui. Her famous technique was the 1,000 faces and 100 flowers capable of transforming into man, woman, young, or old. She loved creating alternative identities to travel the martial world. The flower-faced fox sword was one of Shisui's alternative identities. Because Shisui had been an unparalleled and renowned beauty since childhood, she often endured the malicious gazes of men. This also gave her the prejudice that men only cared about a woman's looks. Liu Yiling's test, therefore, precisely reflected Shisui's prejudice. At that moment, a ray of light suddenly flashed in Liu Yiling's eyes. It was the heart-scrutinizing eye, a technique capable of distinguishing truth from lies. After careful examination, she was stunned, thinking, "I never would have believed he was telling the truth. Until now, the men who saw me only focused on my looks and did everything to have me. But regardless, how could he be moved by an ugly woman?" Seeing that the timing was just right, I suddenly said, "Master, you said that if I passed the test, you would grant my wish." Her face immediately turned crimson as she said, "Don't come near me with that thing standing up like that. Do you really think I'm beautiful looking like this?" I confirmed it once more. "Then please help me make my wish come true." Hearing those words, Liu Yiling's mind was completely blown. Thinking a request under these circumstances, could it be he wants me to just as... Liu Yiling was moved by my sincere words. I whispered my wish into her ear. I want to lie in bed with you under the full moon and experience together the pleasures between a man and a woman. Having said that, I shook my head, pretending to be troubled, saying, no, that won't work. Hearing this, Liu Yiling asked urgently, why wouldn't it work? I said, I am a virtuous disciple of the Kong Tong sect. I cannot put my personal desires above the sect's great cause, so please, help me deliver the martial challenge to the Black Dragon Gang. As I said it, I started to feel satisfied with successfully changing the subject, while Liu Yiling seemed extremely angry. Then she let out a roar at me. Not only did she shatter my long sword, but she sent me flying. This left me completely confused. Everything was fine just a second ago. What did I do wrong? Liu Yiling came to her senses and was surprised then. Full of guilt, she helped me up, saying, oh, I didn't mean to do that just now. I just wanted to express my emotions. But I subconsciously used internal energy. At that moment, I immediately spat out blood. Her roar had nearly killed me. But seeing her panicked look, it seemed that she really had no intention of attacking me. In that case, I couldn't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I turned on the charm and acted cute. Master, how could you treat me like this? I heard that you are very kind to those you've acknowledged. Liu Yiling explained in a rush. It was truly a misunderstanding. Seeing that the timing was perfect, I asked her again if she could grant my wish to deliver the martial challenge. Liu Yiling immediately agreed. I will definitely help you do that. Seeing this, I flashed a triumphant grin. As they say, cute guys have all the luck. But what surprised me even more was that before leaving, she dropped several summing pills on the ground. Seeing this, my eyes lit up. This whole move was basically the jackpot. After Liu Yiling left, the voice of Liu Zhenhui echoed from nearby. I panicked. Master and Big Brother absolutely could not find out about Liu Yiling. So I quickly lay down on the ground, pretending to wake up. Soon, when Liu Zhenhui arrived, he pulled me into his arms and said, little brother, are you okay? I said, don't worry. A group of masked people attacked the Kong Tong sect. I fought them for a long time, but they still managed to get away. Even though I sustained some minor injuries, at least I managed to protect the Kong Tong sect. Hearing this, Liu Zhenhui suddenly thought of something, saying, those people must be from Jingui. Only they would do something so despicable and shameful. Next time I see them, I definitely won't let them off easy. Seeing this, I smiled with satisfaction. The more Big Brother hated Jingui, the better he would perform at the martial arts competition. But what disgusted me was, it was about whether those things should be said while choking up. The scene changed. After 3 days of recovery, my body was completely healed. I'd better save these suming pills for important moments. Just then, Master and Liu Zhenhui suddenly came to check on me. I quickly lay back down weakly on the bed, saying, after resting a bit, Master, my body feels much better. Hearing this, the two of them were happy. Master said that to recover quickly, nutrition was essential. Liu Zhenhui took my hand and said, whatever you want to eat, just say the word, and I'll buy it. At those words, my eyes suddenly lit up. Since I had joined the Kong Tong sect, it had been plain food every single day. Why not take this opportunity to eat foods that could boost my stamina? While clams would be best, given the sect's terrible financial situation, I had to settle for my second choice. I said I want to eat some pork and pig liver. Upon hearing that, Liu Zhenhui immediately went down the mountain to buy the food. He cried, blaming himself, it's entirely my fault for not protecting my little brother well. So to prevent him from getting hurt again, I have to become stronger. A few moments later, Liu Zhenhui finally arrived at the Kong Tong Inn and broke the news of my injury to Shu Wangyuan. He also asked if he could buy some pork. Shu Wangyuan agreed, saying, after all, he was injured because of us. We can't be like ungrateful animals and do nothing. Hearing that, Liu Zhenhui quickly expressed his gratitude. But just at that moment, Shaolin suddenly stood up from the table, saying, I also want to go to the Kong Tong sect to take care of him. This left Liu Zhenhui confused, saying, I'm enough on my own. However, Shaolin's face was full of determination as she said, as his future wife, taking care of him is my duty, Shu Guangyuan explained awkwardly. I only told Shaolin that if she were looking for a husband, she should find someone like Li Ju. It turns out that a few days ago, Shu Guangyuan was drowning his sorrows because of Jin, guy who was trying to seize the inn. At that moment, Shaoling approached him carrying a cup of tea, saying, Father, are you okay? Even with the help of the Kong Tong sect folks, you're still worried. This made Shu Guangyuan say, if we lose the competition against the Black Dragon Gang, not only will the inn be gone, but the Kong Tong sect will also be dragged into this. Then he suddenly smiled and said, Shaolin, what do you think of Li Ju? Shaolin thought for a second and said, he's a good person. Shu Guangyuan added eagerly, saying he was very brave against Jin Gui. Only an exceptional man like him is qualified to be my daughter's future husband. Upon hearing this, Shaolin's face immediately turned red as she said, Father, I don't object to what you're saying, so Shaolin now considered herself my future wife and wanted to take care of me. Snapping back to reality, Shaolin said, he was injured because of and I should go take care of him. Liu Janeway didn't know how to argue back. Even though she was right, he just felt unhappy. At that moment, Shang Yuhan said, if you don't like Shaolin going to take care of him, could you? At least bring her to see him once. In the end, Liu Janhui agreed because since that day when Zhenhui caused trouble, the people in the streets were in constant panic. So compared to here, the Kong Tong sect was safer. Meanwhile, I was lying in bed feeling anxious. Why at such a perfect time? Was I all alone with Master? If a beauty came by right now, wanting to examine my body, and then have a deep exchange with me, wouldn't that be the best way to take care of a patient? Just at that moment, a noise suddenly came from outside the door. Master invited Liu Zhenhui in. He had returned and was about to go check things out. After I was left alone in the room, I started my Kegel exercises again. I'd been doing this for quite a while. As I watched that thing stand tall and lift the blanket, I was suddenly reminded of memories from my past life. In my past life, though I often fantasized, I could never actually relieve myself. Thinking about it gave me an idea. Why not take care of business secretly while I'm all alone? However, just as I was getting into it, Chu Shaolan silently opened the door. She said, it's been a while. Seeing this, my heart immediately started racing, but I still asked her, politely, why she was there. Chu Shaolan said she came to take care of me, and would stay at the Kong Tong sect for a bit. Speaking of which, she pulled out a towel to wipe down my body. I immediately broke into a cold sweat. But before I could object, she pulled the blanket right off. It made me uncontrollably scream, stop! Meanwhile, Liu Zhenhui was cooking in the kitchen, but a trace of melancholy showed on his face. Chu Shaolan had openly declared that she wanted to be little brother's wife. She was very pretty and would surely grow up to be a total smoke show. But as for me, I'll probably be a bachelor for life. At that moment, he suddenly thought of something. Since I couldn't love little brother as a woman, then little brother is my most important person. I couldn't just let him marry other women so easily either. So even Miss Chu had to pass my vibe check. Just then, Liu Zhenhui walked in and said, he said that men and women shouldn't have physical contact. Cheerful as ever on the other side, I had just calmed down when he said Mrs. Zhu is a woman, so it's awkward for her to wipe your body. Little brother and I are both men, so you can safely trust your body to me. Hearing that, I immediately panicked and said, big brother, I don't need, before I could even finish my sentence. Liu Zhenhui impatiently started pulling me. In the end, not only was the blanket ripped away, but even my clothes were shredded to rags by him. And that's how Liu Zhenhui robbed me of my first intimate massage. But to be honest, big brother's technique was simply extraordinary. The scene changed. Liu Yiling lying on the bed looked worried. Could Li Ju be seriously injured? Could he have collapsed and never get back up? Thinking about it, she suddenly realized that something was wrong. As an expert of the profound realm and the #1 person in the evil cult, I was actually worrying about an unknown junior. I was the top-tier beauty that all men desired. Could I really have been captivated by some kid from the Kong Tong sect? Later, she summoned the leader of Jingui and reminded him that she was heading to the headquarters of the Black Dragon Gang, warning him not to cause trouble while she was gone. On the way, Liu Yiling kept denying it to herself. How could I have feelings for that kind of person? I'm only keeping my promise. There's no way I'd ever fall in love with you, Li Ju. Right after Liu Zhenhui gave me a forced full-body massage, he asked how I was feeling. I said it was very comfortable, but honestly, I wanted to die inside, having my body touched everywhere by a man. Hearing that, Liu Zhenhui said happily, well then from now on, I'll give you an acupoint massage every single day. At those words, I jumped up, suddenly saying, no need to trouble yourself, big brother. This one time was enough. Zhenhui said, as long as it helps, little brother recover faster. I'll do anything. Then he said, cheerfully, that he was going to get me some water to drink. Even though it made me very miserable, I had to admit that. The effect of Liu Zhenhui's massage was actually good. My body felt much better. But I couldn't accept big brother touching me like that every day. Looks like I had to speed up the competition. Although Liu Yiling promised to persuade the Black Dragon Gang, it wasn't enough at all. The competition still needed a referee. The so-called referee was someone who could prove the match was fair. Not only would this prevent the losing side from lying about their win, but it could also serve to publicize the competition results. But the biggest problem now was finding a referee who was respected and prestigious. After the decline of the Kong Tong sect, the only qualified one was the Zeman family. But the Seaman family, who never liked to meddle in others' business, would definitely not agree to it now. I could only wait for my body to recover, to keep an eye on the Seaman family's movements. Just at that moment, Liu Zhenhui walked in again. As he brought in a cup of water, seeing this, I asked if he had other things to do. Liu Chenhui happily nodded, so I asked again, if Big Brother is taking care of me, then who's cooking? But when I heard from him that it was Chu Shaolan, I immediately spat out the water I had just put in my mouth. My stomach was doomed. Chu Shaolan didn't know how to cook at all. The scene changed. Inside the Black Dragon Gang, Liu Yiling informed the Black Dragon Gang leader that the Kong Tong sect wanted to settle the affair through martial world methods. This greatly displeased leader Wei Tianming, he said, requesting a private meeting with me over such a trivial matter and even bribing flower-faced fox Liu Yiling. Do you think meeting me alone is child's play? As he spoke, a massive surge of inner energy erupted from his body, transforming eventually into a black dragon with fierce eyes. However, Liu Yiling's heart remained completely calm because all of her inner energy was concentrated into the letter. The next second, Wei Tianming threw the letter toward Liu Yiling, but it was easily caught by her. Seeing this scene, Wei Tianming was stunned. I clearly infused it with inner energy. At that moment, his eyes widened in horror. He saw Liu Yiling suddenly tear off her disguise, revealing her true face and saying, "When did I give you permission to be presumptuous before me?" Seeing this, Wei Tianming quickly ran over and knelt. Alliance leader, what brings you here? At that moment, Liu Yiling seemed very displeased, cursing internally. Li Ju, you big jerk. It's because of you that I revealed my true face. Then she said directly, accept the martial challenge from the Kong Tong sect, Wei Tianming said weakly. But accepting this competition doesn't seem to have any upside. Shisui smiled. You only know one side of it, not the other. Isn't there still the Seaman family? Hearing that, Wei Tianming suddenly realized those despicable people from the Seaman family had been waiting for an opportunity. For hundreds of years, the entire province had been the Kong Tong sect's base. If the Kong Tong sect were to revive, it was only a matter of time before the Zeman family was suppressed. So the Seaman family had always ignored Jingui's affairs, as seeing the Kong Tong sect fall faster was exactly the situation they wanted. After the Kong Tong sect fell, they, as a righteous sect, would use vengeance as an excuse for a decisive battle with the Black Dragon Gang, thereby solidifying their position as the #1 sect. At that moment, Shisui suddenly interrupted. But if the Black Dragon Gang completely destroys the Kong Tong sect through the competition, they'll have no chance to intervene. Hearing this, Wei Tianming immediately guaranteed, rest assured, Alliance leader, I will definitely win the competition, then destroy the ancestral mountain of the Kong Tong sect, and cut off their lifeline. However, Shisui said, don't destroy the ancestral mountain. This left Wei Tianming very confused, but what he didn't know was that Shisui thought Li Ju needed a place to live before he reached adulthood. Meanwhile, I was heading toward the kitchen. The exquisite Shaolan was cooking a precious pig, seriously. According to the intel from the spies, at the palace in my past life, people who ate Chu Shaolan's cooking almost died. It wasn't because it was poisoned, but purely because it was just straight up horrific. My pig was supposed to be fine. But when I reached the kitchen, I discovered that not only was the pig about to be ruined, but the kitchen itself might burn down. Seeing this, Liu Zhenhui quickly went to get water. But I thought to myself, this is bad, why didn't I see her? Was Chu Shaolan still in the kitchen? Thinking about it, I quickly pushed open the door and picked up Chu Shaolan, who was lying on the floor, and the moment Chu Shaolan saw me, her eyes seemed to light up. Hearing this, Liu Zhenhui's face flushed slightly, and then he agreed. As expected, he really was lusting after my beauty. Next, I told Liu Zhenhui that Maitreya's auscultation was an extremely yin spiritual medicine and had to be absorbed using yin-based inner energy. Zhenhui suddenly remembered the 3-line formula he had discovered earlier. Immediately, he started flipping through the manual and memorizing it. Witnessing this scene, I couldn't help but sigh inwardly at the speed he was turning the pages. Truly, a prodigy with a heavenly martial body. After memorizing the incantation, he rolled up the strips ready to ingest it. He thought, since this Maitreya, holy water was given to me by my little brother, no matter what happens, I won't let his good intentions go to waste. But he had barely drunk the Maitreya holy water when the icy yin energy violently unleashed inside him. Instantly, his body began to shake from the cold, uncontrollably, and his heart seemed to have frozen solid, completely iced over. Seeing that, I immediately sensed that something was wrong. Could it be that Liu Zhenhui couldn't control the powerful yin energy of the holy water, while his entire body was slowly being covered in a thin layer of ice? The next second, he appeared within his own spiritual world, and scenes from his childhood began to flash before him. A crow had killed a family of swallows, so he had killed the crow. At that moment, his inner demon suddenly spoke. Why does everyone curse me? Why do they call me names? Before Liu Zhenhui could react, The next second, the inner demon lunged at him with a fierce look. At the same time, I also felt something unusual. I wanted him to absorb the spiritual medicine to quickly become stronger, then use his reputation to win the hearts of beauties. But now it seemed he was most likely being overwhelmed by his own inner demon. Though I was reluctant to have any physical contact with him, I couldn't just watch him suffer like this. So I began to transmit my true energy to him, saying, "Big brother, quickly absorb the yin energy of Maitreya's holy water then. Recite the true 3 yins formula. Work with the pressure points. I told you about to guide this icy yin energy. If you don't pull yourself together, you'll truly succumb to demonic deviation." At that point, Liu Zhenhui also heard my call, but the inner demon was clutching his throat, preventing him from moving an inch. Seeing Liu Zhenhui in more and more danger for my own bright future, I couldn't let him become a cripple. "Liu Zhenhui, count yourself lucky. Your little brother was a supreme master in his past life." With that thought, I channeled another powerful wave of inner energy into him. At that moment, Liu Zhenhui was still struggling, desperately, to break free from the inner demon's grip. He then picked up a rock next to him and smashed it with all his might against the inner demon's head. After being shaken off, the inner demon became completely enraged. Before Liu Zhenhui could run far, it charged with a swift move and threw Liu Zhenhui several meters back. Having lost all ability to fight, Liu Zhenhui looked totally hopeless. He said, "Am I going to die miserably like this?" Before he could finish, a voice suddenly transmitted to his mind, "Big brother, don't give up." Immediately after, a powerful wave of inner energy poured into his body. I said, "Big brother, you have to pull yourself together. Don't let yourself be defeated by the inner demon in front of you. The most important thing right now is to absorb the ritual spiritual medicine. I'll help you dilate your pressure points. Even though this is very painful for me, as long as I can create an opening for you, it's all worth it." Hearing that, Liu Zhenhui also came to his senses. He thought, "My little brother is risking his life to help me. I absolutely cannot let him down." With that thought, he immediately got up and launched a counterattack. With a single punch, he sent the inner demon flying, then sat down, cross-legged, and began to absorb the holy water of Maitreya. The inner demon felt it had exhausted all its inner energy to suppress the yin energy that it had awakened. So as long as he could replenish his inner energy, defeating the demon would be easy. But at that exact moment, the inner demon also recovered. Without a word, it charged toward Liu Zhenhui. At this critical moment, I hastily transmitted another wave of inner energy to him. The next second, dozens of wooden sticks firmly pinned down the inner demon. Soon after, Liu Zhenhui opened his governor and conception vessels. With a single glance, he cast the inner demon into a bottomless abyss. At the same time, I also felt that his aura was gradually stabilizing, so I signaled him to send the icy yin energy into the Baihui acupoint, as that would bring him closer to breaking through the governor and conception vessels realm. Faced with my sincere concern, Liu Zhenhui remained in a daze for a moment. He thought, "It seems my little brother has always been like this, from the very start, always thinking of me. Not only did he give me the most important thing, but he also saved me at this critical moment. Thank you for taking such good care of me. I'll never forget this kindness. Even if the whole world becomes your enemy, I will stand firmly by your side." A few moments later, Liu Zhenhui finally succeeded in breaking through the governor and conception vessels. At the same time, Liu Zhenhui's body also entered a state of total self-oblivion. But what made me curious was why his chest was more prominent than that of an ordinary man. Could it be because of the holy water of Maitreya? Thinking about it, I suddenly had an epiphany. No wonder Liu Zhenhui stayed away from women in his past life. It turned out that his physical condition had caused him a lot of trouble. Just then, a cluster of cheerful red plants suddenly caught my attention. When I stepped closer to take a better look, I discovered that it was actually red yang moss, which is capable of replenishing vitality. Seeing this, I happily did a few sets of eagles, then I started eating it in big gulps. It was the perfect time to seize this opportunity and practice cultivation. Normally, I would have to guide the essence of the spiritual medicine into my Dantian to convert it into inner energy. But this time, I will spread the power of the red yang moss throughout my entire body, because only by strengthening the body can I increase my vitality. Although the red yang moss isn't as powerful as Maitreya's holy water, I could obtain a body immune to all diseases. But right after finishing my cultivation, I discovered that Liu Zhenhui had disappeared. Did he go for a swim? Then I should also go wash up with him. But what I didn't know was that Liu Zhenhui was extremely reluctant about it, so I had no choice but to wait for him outside. This made Liu Zhenhui heave a huge sigh of relief. He had almost been discovered by his little brother to be a woman. Master once said that in the martial arts world, only men would not be looked down upon. Though it was very dangerous just now, fortunately he absorbed the holy water of Maitreya. Without my little brother, I would have certainly become a cripple. Why is such a kind person? Only my little brother at the thought his face couldn't help but blush, and the idea of wanting to take care of his little brother for life crossed his mind. Even without facing any difficulties, Liu Zhenhui, coming back to his senses, appeared shocked. What am I thinking about so randomly? My feelings for my little brother should be a brotherly affection. Because whether it's to rebuild the sect or to stay by my little brother's side, none of that matters. Can't be done with the weak body of a woman. I must be a man. At the same time, while I was waiting outside, I was already deeply shocked by the cave's scenery. The night glow, pearls, embedded everywhere, were enough to show how wealthy the Kong Tong sect was back in the day. The sect founded by the talented Wu Jizi, the original mixed sword emperor. Who would have thought it'd be such a letdown today, 50 years ago after the Kong Tong sect suffered a massacre? Only one person survived, the master of the celestial thunder sword. Because the glory of the Kong Tong sect was gone and all the advanced secret manuals had been burned. He only took on one disciple in his lifetime. That child is the current leader of the Kong Tong sect, the demon-taming swordsman Kuan Yin. Even though that nickname sounds dope, everyone in the martial arts world knew it was meant to be sarcastic. It was given to him by the evil Janeway sect, who wanted to destroy the Kong Tong sect just to mock the loss of the demon-taming sword technique. Fortunately, this time we've recovered the secret manual from the cave, which was a pretty big win. Even though Wu Jizi didn't create this cave as a prophecy, it was a stroke of good luck for the current Kong Tong sect. Back then, Jizi erased all rumors about the cave to live as a recluse. That way the demon cult never found this place. It left me very puzzled. Why would Wu Jizi erase the existence of the secret cave, which was like a sacred site according to history? You have to understand, before the demon cult invasion, the Kong Tong sect was the #1 sect. Wu Jizi couldn't have predicted the sect's decline in advance. Maybe it was just for the sake of seclusion. But what really made me, what was even more curious, was another point. How did Liu Zhenhui in his previous life find this place? At that moment, Liu Zhenhui just came out of the bath saying, "Little brother, go take your bath." Seeing that, I was completely stunned and my face flushed involuntarily. Could it be because of the Maitreya's holy water? His face seemed even more beautiful than usual. At the thought, I immediately punched myself. What was I thinking? He was a grown man. However, this kid Liu Zhenhui was indeed getting more and more handsome, and there was even a light floral scent on him. Should I also wear a sachet to mind my appearance? But I quickly dismissed my own idea. Forget it. No matter how well I'm dressed, this ugly face was already a fact. After I finished bathing, Liu Zhenhui was organizing the martial arts manuals we had found. Currently, the Kong Tong sect only possessed the minor yang technique, and here, we not only recovered the 3 true lines formula, but also all the internal energy cultivation methods. Once the minor yang technique and the 3 true lines formula were practiced to the highest level, one could learn the even more powerful mixed origin unity skill. But what left me puzzled was that we hadn't discovered the mixed origin unity skill, nor the demon-taming sword technique here. According to information from the Eastern Depot, in my previous life, Liu Zhenhui had obtained the demon-taming sword technique right here, but Depot intel could never be wrong. This meant Wu Jizi must have left the manual for the sword technique in another way. I should check around to see if there's any mechanism left behind. So in what way would Wu Jizi, who had reached the realm of life and death, leave behind his sword technique? At that moment, Liu Zhenhui said, "By the way, earlier, I discovered a huge sword mark in the cave, next to the bath." Hearing that, I hastily signaled Liu Zhenhui to lead us to take a look. When we reached the destination, the scene before me made me sigh in admiration. "It's so magnificent," I said. "Big brother, it seems like there's something behind this wall. Whatever sealed this wall must be a mechanical device from 300 years ago. When opening it, if the force was too great or too small, this mechanism would completely seal the whole cave. So, without executing the demon-taming sword technique, this stone wall could not be opened. But fortunately, I knew the incantation for the demon-taming sword technique a bit. It turns out that in my previous life, the imperial family, in order to balance the martial world, had collected the ultimate techniques of various sects and developed methods to counter them. Although I haven't mastered all the authentic secret arts, since the demon-taming sword technique of the Kong Tong sect was very famous, I had learned a little about it, so I recognized at a glance that these sword marks were the demon-taming sword technique left by Wu Jizi. Thinking about it, the corners of my mouth couldn't help but turn up. There must be something good left by Wu Jizi behind this stone wall. Then I began to constantly explore the cave, as all martial arts had high-level footwork, techniques and everything in this cave was a hint given by Wujizi. Soon I discovered sword marks on the ground, so I followed these marks to find the place where the footwork technique had to be performed. I finally found a stone wall covered in vines. When I struck it with my sword, dozens of sword marks suddenly appeared before us, because the demon-taming sword technique left on the stone wall was too deep. Liu Genhui and I spent 2 days deciphering it. During that time, Liu Genhui was the first to notice that the lightning-shaped marks on the stone wall were the demon-taming sword technique. Starting from another stone wall to restore the sword technique, we racked our brains and consulted all the secret manuals of the Kong Tong sect, then combined it with my memories to finally get the correct incantation. Next, it was a matter of teaching him how to practice the sword technique. I would have never imagined that my first intimate contact in this life would be with a cursed man, Liu Genhui. How many more of my firsts are you going to take? And so, thanks to our relentless efforts, Liu Genhui finally learned the demon-taming sword technique. But Genhui stared at the long sword, his face full of doubt. Now I just have to use the demon-taming sword technique on the stone wall. Is it really possible, the master once said, that without the mixed storage and unity skill, one could not perfectly execute the demon-taming sword technique? I immediately gave him my reassurance, because the sword marks on the stone wall were originally prepared for those whose sword technique had reached the highest level. Big brother, if you didn't have a heavenly martial body, we wouldn't have even been able to restore the demon-taming sword technique. Liu Genhui asked, isn't there another way to open the stone wall? I signaled to him not to worry, because I had already found a way to unlock it. After all, I used to be the head of an intelligence organization. My skill level in using energy detection to unlock mechanical devices was unmatched in the world. Originally, you had to use the sharp edge of the demon-taming sword technique to break the seal. But since it was such old technology, with the exception of the core device, the others couldn't distinguish at all between sword energy and energy detection. By exploiting this very point, even without reaching the highest level of the demon-taming sword technique, I could open the stone wall. Soon after a few maneuvers on my part, I gave a nod to Liu Jinhua, signaling success. Liu Jinhua understood immediately, and then he began to prepare to perform the demon-taming sword technique. Seeing this scene, the corners of my mouth couldn't help but turn up. Liu Jinhua, show off your full talent. Your current life will be different from the last. With that, Liu Genhui began to perform the footwork technique. Immediately after, as he charged forward, a shattering sword energy descended as well. The very next second, 3 stone walls slowly opened. Liu Genhui excitedly grabbed both my hands to celebrate. Little brother, you're amazing. Thank you so much for actually letting me learn the ultimate technique of the Kong Tong sect, I said. We can't celebrate too early. Let's go confirm what Haoji left behind. But after entering through the stone wall, I lost consciousness without even realizing it. When I woke up, I discovered that my hands were already tightly bound by iron chains, and 2 people in front of me also seemed to be mumbling something. Before I could even react, that man from my past life who had neutered me greeted me. Seeing this, I was shocked. It was actually Wang San and Jen the middleman. But that immediately gave me the answer. So after entering through the stone wall, I had fallen into an illusion. Damn you, Haoji, making me see this disgusting hallucination. I'll definitely make you pay. At that moment, Wang San approached with a sinister smile, saying, little guy, you should thank me. After all, living in the palace is better than starving to death outside. Isn't it? And who knows, you might even become a powerful eunuch with immense power. When that time comes, don't forget the great kindness of John Jian and mine. Hearing this, I immediately became furious. What he said was true. In my previous life, I was indeed beneath one person, but above 10,000. But what's the point of having power and influence? In the end, I was still just a eunuch. Thinking about it, a blinding light flashed from my body, even though after my rebirth, my body lost all its internal energy, my spiritual power hadn't disappeared. With that alone, I easily broke free from my shackles. Before the 2 could react, they were instantly frozen by me. If everything happening right now was taking place in my spiritual world, then my martial arts would certainly not vanish. Then I made a finger sign, and the next second several ice spikes pierced right through them into ice shards. How could such a crude illusion really fool me? And while I was lost in my thoughts, the illusion's scenery transformed silently. At that moment, a delicate jade-like hand suddenly emerged from behind me. When I came to my senses, I discovered I was already immersed in the wine and women I had longed for. The woman said, "You are so amazing. Relax, come hold me in your arms. What a meticulous effort to cloud my mind. They had actually created a tailor-made illusion array, just for me, but I wasn't an easy man to tempt. Unless it was the pleasure between a man and woman who truly loved each other. No matter how beautiful the women in the illusion were, it was useless on me. So I shattered the illusion directly, with a single punch. But the scene that changed immediately after surpassed all my expectations. I saw a man with profound internal energy walking toward me. Before I could even ask his name, the very next second, the man attacked me with his sword. Seeing such an overwhelming aura, I knew the answer immediately. That's right, this person was the most powerful master of the Kong Tong sect from 300 years ago who blocked the demonic cult's attack and saved the martial world. The talented Wu Jieji, the mixed-origin sword emperor. While dodging, I said I wasn't an enemy. But Wu Jieji believed I was lying, because he had already seen that my spiritual power was that of a supreme master, yet my footwork didn't even reach the 3rd level. My soul was also filled with a heaven-defying power. He said, "How will you prove you're not a demonic cult spy?" Demonic. At that moment, I had no strength left to fight. Watching the terrifying sword energy strike again. At this critical moment, I suddenly turned around, circulated the lesser yang technique, and dropped to my knees in front of him, saying, "Li Jeksu, a disciple of the Kong Tong sect, pays respects to the great ancestor." Seeing this, Wu Jieji was completely shocked. Immediately after, he forcibly changed the direction of the sword energy attack. After a moment of silence, Wu Jieji sheathed his weapon and laughed heartily. "You are very clever to have actually been able to circulate the lesser yang technique. It seems you are definitely a disciple of the Kong Tong sect." With that, he helped me up, saying, "The trial is over. I am the consciousness of the mixed-origin sword. Emperor Wu Jieji left here 300 years ago. It's the first time I've met a disciple like you, possessing both heaven-defying methods and the voice of the immortals." I stood up and shot back. "Is there a problem with that? Even if I use these methods, I'm still a Kong Tong disciple." Wu Jieji didn't answer, but muttered, "Could this be the will of heaven?" That's right. To counter heaven-defying methods, one must also learn how to use them. This left me completely bewildered. What heaven-defying method? I just want to get my parts back and enjoy the pleasures between a man and a woman. But to reach that goal, I still had to confirm one thing. So I asked, "Is the Sword Emperor's legacy the stone wall of martial arts I saw?" Wu Jieji didn't expect such bluntness, saying, "And what if I said yes?" Hearing that, I hurried to bow and said, "Then please don't teach me this martial art. Could you teach it to my older brother instead? I just want to be the second in command and live the good life with great food and wine. As long as I can practice the secret manuals of the Kong Tong sect that we've recovered, I'll be satisfied. The great responsibility of reviving the sect should be given to Liu Ganu. Once he receives guidance from the mixed-origin sword emperor, he will obtain terrifying power." Upon hearing this, Wu Jieji shook his head with a bitter smile. "You're really that dense. Don't you get it yet? You were destined to come here, because a heaven-defying doomstar will descend again in the future." I still didn't understand what he meant. The mixed-origin sword emperor was the great hero who stopped the demonic cult's invasion 300 years ago. Back then, he should have wiped out the entire demonic cult, right? But based on what he just said, could it mean the demonic cult is returning? The Blood Cult was a third-party extremist organization made up of radical forces from the heavenly demon cult. 300 years ago, the leader of the Blood Cult, the Blood Venerable, threatened everyone with a mindless massacre. During that chaotic period, it was said that not only did blood flow like a river, but even the emperor of the Central Plains fled in a panic. After the Blood Cult occupied the Central Plains, Wu Jieji led the Martial Alliance in a desperate battle against them. Finally, the Martial Alliance emerged victorious. After that tragic war, a new dynasty was also established. The martial world also received a privilege from the imperial family that officials and martial artists would not interfere with one another. This was also the imperial family's way of recognizing the Martial Alliance's struggle against the Blood Cult. At that moment, Wu Jieji replied, "I cannot continue to reveal celestial secrets." I was filled with resentment, damn it. The situation seemed much more serious than I had imagined. In my previous life, the Blood Cult showed no activity at all. But in this life, my trajectory had already completely changed. If the forces of the Blood Cult and the demonic cult invaded the Central Plains, simultaneously just thinking about it made me grit my teeth. I had planned to let Janeway maintain the peace while I lived a life of ease. But now 2 unknown threats were looming. Once war breaks out, regardless of age or gender, everyone would be filled with anxiety and worry for the future. In that scenario, if the wives I share my love with were to suffer mentally and emotionally from the war and die in regret, who would be responsible? Thinking about it made me so angry that my whole body was trembling. I absolutely did not want such a future, no such worries, and I couldn't allow any anxiety or sorrow in my future. Since the Sword Emperor had chosen me, there had to be a reason. Either way, in the end, it was to make me stronger. There was no room for hesitation. This opportunity had to be seized by me. But that didn't mean I would replace my older brother as the protagonist of the sect's revival. I simply wanted to add a layer of security for my beautiful future life. At that moment, Wu Jizzy suddenly said, "Are you ready to receive guidance?" I looked confused. What preparation? I'm a disciple of the Kong Tong sect. Shouldn't I already be qualified? Wu Jizzy exposed my inner thoughts. The guy who fantasizes about pleasures between men and women in the illusion is quite the talker. You wouldn't be thinking about using our sexual technique, would you? All for the sake of such vulgar pleasures, right? That made me break out in a cold sweat. After a moment of silence, I seriously explained to Wu Jizzy, my goal isn't just lust. Pleasures between men and women are natural laws of the world. Besides, I'm not the kind of person you think I am. The fact that I wasn't deceived by the illusion is the best proof of that. I only want to live a happy life with the women I love. How can you compare me to those evil heretics? After hearing this, Wu Jizzy got a bit of a headache. How would the women who love you feel about this? They would suffer from jealousy. Hearing that, I promised, I won't do anything I can't handle. So what you're talking about will absolutely never happen. Seeing my resolute expression, Wu Jizzy could only laugh helplessly, saying, the ambition is great. After all, it's natural that someone capable of opposing heaven-defying forces has an abnormal spirit. Then he prepared to teach me martial arts and told me to abandon the mental martial Tao I had accumulated. I completely agreed. That kind of castration martial arts, even if I couldn't use it, it didn't matter at all. If possible, I wanted such martial arts to disappear. Wu Jizzy immediately praised my strong enlightenment. Then he taught me the ultimate mystery of the Kong Tong sect's martial arts, mixed origin Wujitao. By applying the principles of yin-yang transmission to the vast universe and cultivating the divine skill of dual harmony to the highest level, one could understand the mixed origin Wujitao. Finally, he reminded me, you must work hard to cultivate the divine skill of dual harmony. To cultivate the divine skill of dual harmony. At that moment, I suddenly snapped my eyes open. Seeing Liu Janeway lying next to me, I hurriedly woke him up. Liu Janeway told me he had just seen the sect destroyed. So I explained to him it was just an illusion, left by the Sword Emperor. While Liu Janeway was still processing that, I suddenly found a mysterious box that must be the divine skill of dual harmony, left by the Sword Emperor, but just at that moment, debris started falling constantly from above. I immediately realized that it was because the power the Sword Emperor had maintained here had vanished. I rushed over to the treasure chest and pulled out the divine skill of dual harmony. Then, Liu Janeway and I ran together toward the exit. After escaping the danger, Liu Janeway and I simultaneously breathed a sigh of relief, even though the secret cave was completely destroyed. Luckily, we had brought back the lost martial arts. At that moment, Liu Janeway indicated it was time to head back. I readily agreed. But before going home, I had to go to one other place. There, a young boy stood holding his bags, his face also showing a trace of worry. It turned out that ever since he went to seek help from the Kong Tong sect, he hadn't heard any news from Liu Janeway or me. He shed tears of guilt, saying, "This is all my fault. What if something happened to the two brothers because of me?" At that moment, his mother scolded him. "Grandpa's health is failing, and you're just causing more trouble." And in the grandfather's words, there was also a certain reluctance. "Do we really have to leave this place?" The mother said, "The family is poor enough as it is now. Even our livestock pen is gone. We have to go somewhere where we can actually support ourselves." Just then I arrived with Liu Janeway, saying, "We are disciples of the Kong Tong sect. My name is Li Jexu, and this is my senior brother, Liu Janeway. Earlier, your son asked us to catch the celery that destroyed the livestock pen. We have already taken care of it." Hearing this, the mother said in total shock, "Are you talking about our young Siok?" Upon seeing us, the little boy became even more excited. A second later, he rushed toward us. I first told the boy that what had destroyed their pen was a python that had turned into a monster. Then I expressed my gratitude, saying, "Thanks to your report, we avoided further losses." With that, I started rummaging through my bag, saying, "This is the internal core of the python. As long as your grandfather takes this, he will quickly regain his health." After saying our goodbyes to the boy and his family, Liu Janeway said, "If we could be stronger, couldn't we reward more people who support the Kong Tong sect?" At that moment, I suddenly interrupted him, saying, "We need to hurry back." On the way home, I thought about many things, even though this time, thanks to the little boy and the python, I gained a chance encounter. it also placed a heavy mission on my shoulders. In my previous life, Liu Janeway hadn't obtained the demon-subduing divine skill. The demon-subduing divine skill hadn't appeared in the world, yet the secret cave had collapsed. That meant that in my previous life, someone like us had also found the secret cave. What if that person was a descendant of the blood cult if they had destroyed the secret cave to prevent history from repeating itself? And if they had hidden in some distant place in my previous life, escaping the intelligence network of the East and West depots, plotting conspiracies so invisible threats were constantly on the move. I had to be more careful in the future. A few moments later, Liu Janeway and I finally reached the sect. How should we explain our unauthorized departure to Master? Just then, Master's voice suddenly came from behind. After confirming it was Liu Janeway and me, his expression changed completely. The next second, he straight up punched us, saying, "Do you know I've been looking for you?" What exactly happened? After learning the whole story, Master asked again if the situation was true. Nodding in affirmation, I pulled out the night luminous pearl that we had obtained from the secret cave. Looking at the recovered secret manuals, Master shed tears of joy with emotion. I'm not dreaming. Am I the ancestors' wish? To revitalize the sect finally has hope. Thinking of this, Master suddenly closed the book, saying, "Although you made a mistake by leaving without permission, you also achieved the great feat of finding the ultimate techniques of our sect. So this time I won't punish you for your faults." With that, he pulled Liu Janeway and me into his arms. A few moments later, Master finally finished copying the demon-subduing sword technique. Then he turned his gaze toward the precious night luminous pearl. "With this, we'll never go hungry again." At that moment, I suddenly said, "It's best not to let outsiders know about the divine skill of dual harmony and the night luminous pearl." Master asked in confusion. "The divine skill of dual harmony is one thing, but the sect is short on cash right now. We have to sell the night luminous pearl." But my suggestion came after I started reflecting on things. Hearing the origin sword, Emperor mentioned that ill-fated, heaven-defying star, even though the sword Emperor didn't specifically talk about going against the will of heaven. Whatever it was, it had to represent the blood cult. Because in my previous life, the nation had completely wiped them out. So the intelligence department didn't have much information on the blood cult. But what they didn't know is that the reincarnation ritual I had used came precisely from the blood cult's ancient secret technique. They often disguised themselves as doctors to make a living back then. The most important thing for me was to regain my attributes. I didn't interfere much in the shadows of the martial world, but this life was different. Until now, I hadn't even held the hand of a peerless beauty, nor enjoyed the pleasures between men and women. Under these circumstances, announcing the recovery of the demon-subduing divine skill was a foolish move, because we didn't know when their claws would reach out. So, to deal with those masterminds behind the scenes, we also had to quietly build up our strength. And so I explained to Master that this was the first step in rebuilding the sect. Moreover, the night luminous pearl was also a rare treasure. If we didn't have the power to protect ourselves once targeted by others, it could bring disaster upon the entire sect. After hearing this, Master agreed with my assessment. I heard recently that the Jingu underworld gang is acting very arrogant. It seems we cannot act recklessly. Then, after locking away the secret treasures, Master smiled slightly, saying, "Today is a day to celebrate. Let's go have a meal together." Hearing that, I froze at first, then my eyes filled with anticipation. Finally, I would meet the first flower. Soon, under Master's guidance, we arrived at Wading County, located at the foot of the sect's mountain. Seeing the desolate scene here, I looked completely confused. Was there really a place to eat here? Master pointed out that there used to be many inns here welcoming visitors of the Kong Tong sect. But with the decline of the sect, the commercial district had also greatly deteriorated, especially after being taken over by Zingui. The atmosphere in the streets became even more dangerous. But the only fortunate thing was that the last shop in Wading County, the Kong Tong Inn, was still in business. Then after arriving at the Kong Tong Inn, I couldn't help but express my inner joy. Coming to the Kong Tong Inn for the first time with our sect members was very meaningful. But upon entering, compared to the desolation outside the place, presented a lively scene. The owner of the inn, Cho Guangyuan, hurried forward to bow. "Sect Master, it has been a long time." After some pleasantries, he turned his gaze toward me. Master introduced me. "This is our sect's new disciple, Li Jexu." He also told me that Shou Guangyuan had provided great help to the finances of the Kong Tong sect. Hearing that, I bowed quickly with gratitude. Shou Guangyuan said with a certain excitement, "With a disciple this polite and impressive, joining the Kong Tong sect, I believe the sect's prestige will echo once again throughout the martial world before long. This left me completely puzzled. I had only just greeted him. Wasn't his reaction a bit extra, but looking around I discovered that all the guests seemed thrilled about my arrival at the Kong Tong sect. Cho Guangyuan said, "Young brother, did we scare you? Don't you worry about that." At this, his face showed a hint of pride. Everyone here hopes the Kong Tong sect can be revitalized, with the goal of wiping out that evil Xingui sect that oppresses the people. A man suddenly came before Master holding a cloth bag, saying, "It's an honor to see you. I hope this money can help rebuild the Kong Tong sect." Master immediately expressed his gratitude and promised everyone that these two disciples would definitely revitalize the sect. Then Master asked Cho Guangyuan, "Why haven't I seen your daughter? I wanted to introduce her to Zeju." Chu Guangyuan replied, "Shaolin went to deliver something. She should be back by now." Hearing this, my heart skipped a beat. I kept looking around. The innkeeper's only daughter, Chu Shaolan, the so-called first flower, was finally about to appear. In my previous life, Liu Genhui and Chu Shaolan were the two who rebuilt the Kong Tong sect. If Liu Genhui was the sect's vanguard, then Chu Shaolan was the head administrator, someone with real power. With her unique ethereal beauty, she not only earned the title of First Flower in the martial world, but was also dubbed the Cold Soul, Sword Princess, due to her icy personality and formidable strength. Some people had even started a fan club just for her, and their greatest wish was to die by her blade. Thinking about it, the corners of my mouth couldn't help but turn up. How could I miss a beauty like that? Hurry up! Let me feast my eyes on that breathtaking gorgeousness. Just then, a woman suddenly approached slowly. She said, "Cut the crap and get ready to head out. We're entering the Kong Tong sect's martial arts tournament." The one speaking was none other than Yin Shuilan, the Sword Empress, and leader of the Hengshan sect. A woman asked in confusion, "Master, do we really have to go the Kong Tong sect and the Black Dragon Gang are just small fry factions?" Yin Shuilan cut her off. "This is a clash between good and evil. For the honor of the righteous path, we must be there. Plus, it's for the sake of our own Hengshan sect." Meanwhile, I said to my master, "Master, I'll go deliver the letter to the judges we've already found." He immediately said with worry, "Young brother, you sure it's cool for you to go by yourself? We have no clue what those Black Dragon Gang thugs might pull." This made me totally cringe. That kind of bromance vibe was seriously gross. I brushed his hand off and said, "Relax. The tournament's about to start. They won't lay a finger on me." At that, Liu Genhui finally let out a sigh of relief and said, "All right, just make sure you get back fast." Shortly after heading down the mountain, a sly grin spread across my face. Good thing Liu Genhui didn't tag along. While I was officially delivering letters, I had a secret agenda of my own. The scene shifted. At the Zhangui or Waishaoyan, she asked, "Did you bring the letter from the Kong Tong sect?" I said yes. "It's just to let everyone know that we found the referees." Waishaoyan was surprised that the fading Kong Tong sect had so many referees. Then she said, "You're about to become my servant, so you'd better start thinking about how to handle that." Hearing this, I couldn't help but get annoyed and said, "You're the one who should practice calling me brother." As I left, I suddenly winked at her and said, "See ya." Once outside, I felt pretty good about myself. Now it was time to handle some real business. So I told the Xianqi disciple next to me, "I want to meet your boss. I heard you guys lend money, and it turns out I need some right now." Shortly after learning my purpose, the Xianqi boss, Whitey and Ming, was baffled that a Kong Tong sect disciple would come to borrow money. I immediately shot back. Do businessmen pick and choose their clients? Whitey and Ming laughed heartily and pulled out a cloth bag, saying, "Well, of course not. Here's 50 silver taels. However, our interest rate is 30% per month." Hearing that, I couldn't help but curse internally. It was nothing short of highway robbery. But in the end, I still took the purse. Because no matter the interest rate, I had already done the math. A few moments later, I arrived at the 5 lower gates with the purse. Since news of the good versus evil competition had spread, there had to be betting odds. If I bet on the Kong Tong sect winning, then that 30% interest wouldn't mean a thing. I then found the steward and asked him to show me the way. But to my surprise, they had once again set me up in a VIP room. Was Lin Yuexong that eager to see me? But when I saw who was actually there, I was instantly stunned. Why on earth was he here? It was Mei Jillian, the pale-faced Dark Lord head of the 5 lower gates. He was the sole disciple of Kiziwei and the most powerful gay man in the world. At that moment, Mei Jillian spoke up. "I'm delighted to see you. What brings you here?" I cautiously held out the purse and said, "The 5 lower gates are taking bets for the competition. I've come to place a bet. What are the current odds?" For the Kong Tong sect, Mei Jillian counted the money in the purse and said, "There are 50 taels here if you bet on the Kong Tong sect to win. The odds are 20 to 1. Then he suddenly leaned in, close to my ear, and added, "That would be 1,000 taels." Seeing this, I hurried to back away and said, "If there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave now." At that moment, Jillian pulled out a wooden token and said, "After the competition, take this token to find the steward." After I left, he said to the screen behind him, "Master, he's gone." Hearing this, Kishisue quickly appeared and asked, "Well, what do you think, May?" Jillian immediately confirmed that Lee Jeksu wasn't gay. Upon hearing that, Shisue looked thrilled. She said, "That's wonderful. To become my partner, one must pass a rigorous screening." The next day, the long-awaited battle between good and evil finally began. And while I was admiring the grand spectacle, a voice suddenly greeted me from behind. The person speaking was none other than Yin Shuilan, the Sword Empress of the Hangshan sect. Seeing this, my master bowed and said, "I am Quan, Ying, leader of the Kong Tong sect. It is an honor to meet the Sword Empress." After seeing her in person, I couldn't help but think she's truly worthy of being the most beautiful woman in the righteous faction. Then Yin Shuilan continued, "So you are the talented disciples of the Kong Tong sect participating in the competition. I hope you put on a brilliant performance." Hearing that, my face flushed and I said, "Please, expect the best from us. This competition will let the whole world know about our comeback. And Sword Empress, I hope you take special care of me." After saying that, I thought to myself, since I've returned to the past, Yin Shuilan is definitely my first choice for a wife. At that moment, a voice rang out. "The competition is about to begin. Will the disciples from each faction please come to the arena and get ready? Step up, please." Hearing that, I slowly walked toward the stage. This was my first step as a martial artist in the Jianghu. This time I'll make sure every woman in the Central Plains remembers my name. Of course, not just because of the competition. Thinking this, I stared directly at Yin Shuilan and declared loudly, "Sword Empress Yin Shuilan, when I, Lee Jeksu, reach adulthood, I will challenge you. I will defeat you and become your husband." Hearing this, the audience below was completely shell-shocked. I put on a thirsty expression. My plan for a public confession and declaration was a success. However, the female disciple of the Hangshan sect was furious and said, "A wet behind the ears? Brat dares to challenge the Sword Empress? The Sword Empress is a senior of the righteous martial world. Do you want to make our sect your enemy?" I explained, "I'm dead serious. Even knowing the Hangshan sect would object, I've already prepared for the competition." Hearing this, the disciple's eyes turned cold. She said, "In that case, let me test your skills right now." Watching this scene, I found it quite strange. Even for a public challenge, her reaction was too extreme. As tensions rose, Yin Shuilan suddenly stood up to put a stop to it. Then, she stared at me, lost in thought. A challenge from a young boy? He's at that fiery age, just like her own declaration, at a competition long ago. Though it was just a childish act, considering the current situation of the Hangshan sect, this could actually be a new opportunity. So she made a decision on the spot. She said, "Lee Jeksu of the Kong Tong sect, I accept your challenge." As soon as those words were spoken, the crowd below exploded with excitement. The Sword Empress of the Hangshan sect had actually accepted this kid's challenge. Yin Shuilan said, "Any righteous man can challenge me. I have no reason to refuse. But if you're just playing around, I will personally punish you." I happily gave my word. "Don't worry, I'll give it everything I've got. Now let me show you my sincerity. I'll prove to everyone that I'm qualified to become your husband." However, the disciple of the Black Dragon Gang, who was my opponent, had a look of total contempt. He said, "Just like the rumors say, you're an idiot. This time I'm going to show you what it means to be humiliated." I gave him a dismissive gesture and said, "If you've got the guts, bring it on. I don't want to waste my time talking to a scumbag like you." Hearing that, the disciple of the Black Dragon Gang immediately raised his sword and attacked, shouting, "You disrespectful brat, disrespectful. Now I'm going to make you pay for what you said." As the smoke slowly cleared, the Black Dragon Gang disciple stared at the sword at his neck in disbelief. How is this possible? But Yin Shuilan had witnessed the whole thing. It was fluid like water. The Kong Tong sect's unique light footwork was perfectly suited for dodging such massive, sweeping attacks. As the referee raised my hand, it meant that the first round of the competition had a winner. Then I said with a smug look, "Stop standing there like an idiot. I know you're the weakest link, so get out of here already." In his anger and frustration, a large hand suddenly dropped onto his shoulder. He said, "Calm down, little brother. I warned you not to let your guard down." I watched, perplexed. Were they really blood brothers? Why was the elder brother so much more imposing than the younger one? At that moment, the elder brother said, "I am Zhang Qishan of the Black Dragon Gang. I'll show you the consequences of messing with the Zhang brothers." With that, he struck at me with formidable force. After barely dodging the blow, I immediately sized him up. The elder brother was clearly on another level. I could barely dodge by using only my footwork. It looked like I'd have to pull out that move. I licked my lips. Same here, I don't want to waste time with trash. Hurry up and attack! Hearing this, Jang, Chishin charged again and said, just standing there like a fool will only lead to disaster. With that, his blade slashed straight through my shoulder. The next second, his eyes widened in pure horror. It was an afterimage. However, I wasn't surprised at all. The Kong Tong sect's movement technique, combined with the stealth arts of the East Depot, even if someone knew about this combination, no one could break it. It's through repeated evasions and strikes. James Shishan finally left an opening, and I seized the perfect moment to press my sword against his neck. Seeing this, the referee announced, the winner of the second round is Taijutsu of the Kong Tong sect. As soon as those words were spoken, the crowd below erupted in cheers, and I glanced back behind me. Next up was the most anticipated match, the battle with Wei Oyan. At that moment, Wei Oyan spoke first. We're old acquaintances, so there's no need for more words. However, I flashed a mischievous grin. Let me start by getting under her skin. I said, you're right. You and I have a special relationship, little sister. Hearing that, Wei Shaolan became flustered and furious, but she quickly composed herself and said, you bastard, I won't let you play me again. Before the match, I admit, I underestimated your Kong Tong sect. Kung Fu, but even so, you're no match for me. With that, her eyes turned cold, and she said, as a master, I'll let you strike first. At those words, I charged in one swift motion. The first blow in a fight is crucial, so I'll kick off the battle. With my most powerful move, I leaped into the air, channeling energy from my dantian through my meridian, points to generate yin-yang energy, and explosive jumping power. It was the mixed origin technique. But at this critical moment, my pelvic floor muscles twitched, as the smoke from the collision slowly cleared. I looked into the scene before me, completely shocked. It was blocked then. Wei Shaolan launches her counterattack. First, she concentrated her internal energy in her left hand and struck me. Back then, she charged with her sword. She said, your inferior sword technique is nothing compared to the coiling dragon blade technique of the Black Dragon Gang. Seeing that I could only defend myself desperately, even though I knew perfectly well that the gap between our abilities was huge, this wasn't the time to go down. So I used all my strength to unleash a sweeping blow. However, Wei Shaolan, who dodged it, sneered and said, it's time to end this battle. Now, let me show you my true power. Seeing this, I secretly flashed a lecherous expression. I absolutely couldn't block this hit, but at the very least I had to reach that point to achieve the intended effect, because in this life my goal was to enjoy pleasure, without any responsibility. If I beat Wei Shaolan, my reputation would far exceed that of my senior brothers, which would clearly go against my intentions. So from the start, my goal wasn't to win, but to lose in spectacular fashion, as I was using the mixed origin technique that my senior brother had taught me. That thing shouldn't be standing up. However, as soon as I circulated my internal energy, that thing stood right up, involuntarily. Seeing the shocked faces of the audience, the master smiled awkwardly. Seriously, even for puberty, his yang energy is way too vigorous. And Wei Shaolan was also affected, which caused her guaranteed winning move to miss completely. Then she grabbed me by the collar and questioned me. You pervert! What do you think you're doing on this sacred competition stage? Do you really think I'll be fooled by such vile schemes? At that moment, Liu Genwei shouted urgently from below, Junior, brother, pull yourself together. Don't stop the mixed origin technique. Concentrate your energy. The mixed origin technique will help with the reverse blood circulation technique. Hearing that, I suddenly snapped back to reality. That's right, this match wasn't over yet, so I apologized. Awkwardly, then proposed one final, decisive blow. Wei Shaolan readily accepted, saying, whatever. There's no point wasting energy on you anyway. Once the plan was set, I let out a long sigh. Even though that thing had gone down, who knew when it would stand up again? So I'd better lose this match quickly, before I embarrass myself even more, as we both prepared ourselves and charged at each other, simultaneously, witnessing the violent explosion that followed. The master couldn't help but think, this boy's internal energy has significantly improved. If he hadn't broken his rhythm by acting like a creep earlier, he might have actually been able to compete with Wei Shaolan. At that moment, on the competition stage, I lay on the ground as planned, and the referee's voice rang out. The winner of the third round is Wei Chuyan of the Black Dragon Gang. At that, Wei Chuyan snorted coldly. Serves you right. With such pathetic skills, you dare say you'll be my brother. However, the moment she finished speaking, her clothes suddenly ripped open. Seeing this scene, the crowd below was stunned. They didn't expect the pressure from that final sword strike to be so powerful. If Ijexu's martial arts had been just a little bit better, she could have lost an arm. but some felt the opposite. It was just too embarrassing, wasn't it? Not only did that thing pop up during the competition, but he also ripped a woman's clothes off. At that moment, someone said, maybe this was all part of Ijeksu's plan. The Kong Tong sect still has another contestant, right? Even though it's shameful to win this way. By breaking the Black Dragon Gang's mental state, only he could pull off such a battle. He's a freak hero. The freak hero of Kong Tong was born right on this stage. Liu Janeway gives me a big hug. He says, Junior brother, you did great. Now let me finish this. Seeing this, Wei Shaolin directly tore off her shredded top and said, your eyes are pretty fierce. This is the match I've been looking forward to the most. Draw your sword. Liu Janeway pulled his blade. Inside his body, he activated the 3 true yin formula and the minor yang technique simultaneously. As the yin and yang energies reached their peak, he led a fierce offensive and launched his attack on Wei Shaolin before she could even react. The next second, an explosion shook the entire arena. Witnessing this, the audience below was completely shocked. Yin Shuilin said the skills of the Kong Tong sect disciple are truly impressive. However, this match can be described as a battle between good and evil. Leader, Kuan Yin, are you confident about this tricky situation? Kuan Yin expressed his inner thoughts directly compared to Janeway. I'm more worried about his opponent. On stage, Wei Shaolin thought his speed and strength are terrifyingly high. If I hadn't instinctively blocked that hit, I might already be flat on the floor right now. Then she closed her eyes because of the smoke. She didn't know Liu Janeway's position and could only defend herself by sensing his energy. Shortly after, Liu Janeway launched another attack. Fortunately, Wei Shaolin reacted quickly and blocked with her blade in time. She thought, he's so fast. Not only can I not see his shadow, can't even tell what techniques he's using. Worst of all, he's disappeared again. If this keeps up, only death awaits me. So she immediately started swinging her blade wildly, using the blade's energy to clear the smoke. Soon, a member of the audience was the first to spot Liu Janeway's silhouette. Look over there. When did the Kong Tong sect disciple get to the edge? Wei Shaolin mocked him. Are you scared of the coiled dragon blade technique? Tag a coiled, tag one. Of the Black Dragon Gang. Are you trying to run away? But what Liu Janeway was thinking was that this had dragged on for too long. He would absolutely not allow the person who had hurt his junior brother to continue their arrogance. It was now time to end this battle. But at that instant, Wei Shaolin had already used the coiled dragon blade technique to reach him. However, Liu Janeway didn't panic at all. I will let the whole world know that the ultimate technique of the Kong Tong sect, the demon-subduing sword method that my junior brother and I found, is back. Now I will show you the true power of the Kong Tong sect. When the two forces collided, volatile sparks and debris scattered everywhere in the stalemate. Wei Shaolin was shocked. When did the Kong Tong sect find the demon-subduing sword method? While thinking this, she suddenly felt that something was wrong. Was the dragon-slaying soul of the Black Dragon Gang about to shatter? As expected, the very next second, the dragon-slaying blade shattered into pieces, and she was also blown away by the overwhelming residual force. A generational prodigy. What total nonsense, he was simply a monster. At that moment, Liu Janeway turned his gaze toward Wei Shaolin. He raised his sword once more and said, you made my little brother shed tears, so I'll make you shed tears of blood. With that, he struck toward the resolute Wei Shaolin with determination. At that point, a cry suddenly echoed across the entire competition stage. I surrender. And in that instant, the sword stopped, right at her neck. Then Liu Janeway slowly lowered his sword and said, if there's a next time, I won't spare you. Then the referee announced the result of the match. The winner is Liu Janeway of the Kong Tong sect. As those words were spoken, members of the righteous faction below raised their arms and cheered, and Yin Shuilin finally understood what the master meant. No wonder Kuan Yin was so confident. They had found the demon-subduing sword method. But what surprised her even more was that the first disciple of the Kong Tong sect actually possessed the celestial martial body. 3 days later, inside a dark cave, a martial artist dressed in blood-red robes came to report. Greetings, Supreme Blood Demon. As soon as he spoke, the pool of red blood began to boil. The next second, a man with red hair and pale skin emerged. This person was the leader of the blood cult. The man in the red robe said, the sect. Kong Tong defeated the Black Dragon Gang during the competition. The demon-subduing sword method reappeared during the match. Word is that this disciple possesses the celestial martial body. They also found the mixed-origin secret cave. Hearing this, the blood cult leader's red eyes flashed coldly. Very interesting. Speed up the operation now. As for those who are slow, As he said this, the blood cult leader raised his hand slightly and the blood in the pool instantly condensed into a short blade. The next second it flew, straight toward the neck of the man in the red robe. He said those who are slow will lose their lives. After the man in the red robe left to carry out his orders, the lips of the blood cult leader curled into a cold smile. He said the emergence of the celestial marshal body won't change a thing. Once the plan is complete, the world will be ours. At that moment, I slowly opened my eyes. As my vision gradually cleared up, I spotted a familiar face. It was Chu Shaolan. I said, I've caused you trouble again. How long was I out after? Learning that I had been unconscious. For 3 days, I hastily asked her about the competition. Chu Shaolan smiled softly. She couldn't help but blush a little as she said, the competition ended with a victory for the Kong Tong sect. Everyone is calling you and young Master Liu the twin heroes of Kong Tong. Hearing this, I was instantly hyped. That title alone would make ladies everywhere swoon. Chu Shaolan continued, 2 heroes have emerged from the Kong Tong sect. The first is the divine hero of Kong Tong, Liu Janeway. The second is the freak hero of Kong Tong, Li Jixu. Hearing this, I completely froze. Wait, shouldn't it be the sword hero of Kong Tong? Thinking about it, well, it made sense after all. That thing had happened during my match, so now everyone was calling me the freak hero of Kong Tong. But even so, I wasn't ready to accept it because the title of freak hero was usually reserved for the biggest scoundrels in the martial world. However, the good news was that the Kong Tong sect had won. According to the agreement, I was now Wei Xiaolin's senior brother. Later, after meeting my master, he immediately praised our performance and publicly announced the news of Chu Shaolin joining the Kong Tong sect. Hearing this, I stole a glance at her. As expected, she had accepted my proposal. Soon after, Chu Shaolan finished her discipleship ceremony. I suddenly said, Master, I might have to face the Shiman family. After I told the whole story with some slight adjustments, the master let out a soft sigh. Shiman Jingi caught you practicing martial arts, and a dispute broke out. It seems this match is inevitable, but your opponent is Shiman Jinga. Though not as formidable as the Black Dragon Gang, he's still a rising star, I said. Don't worry, if I thought I'd lose, I never would have agreed to the match. So please trust me. Faced with the now inevitable match, the master could only nod. However, Liu Janeway said, Little brother, your body hasn't fully recovered yet. Don't push yourself too hard. I immediately flashed a smile and said, I'm fine, big brother. It's time I stood on my own 2 feet. This match will show people that I'm not a burden to our sect. Because big brother, with his good looks and his title of divine hero, he'd never understand how I feel right now. I have to show my most impressive side in this competition to get rid of my nickname, the Freak Hero, and win the hearts of the beauties in the righteous martial world. But before that, there was something even more crucial to do. So I asked big brother, Liu Janeway, do you know where Wei Xiaolan is? A few moments later, I finally arrived at the Zindu mansion that Liu Janeway had told me about. Looking at the guards at the entrance, I said to them with confidence, Do you know who I am? Seeing me, the guard exclaimed. In shock, the Kong Tong pervert. You actually dare to show your face here. Hearing the word pervert, my face twisted instantly, and I asked, Are you talking to me? The guard replied angrily. Of course you were so disrespectful to our young leader during the competition. Hearing that, I was instantly furious. Freak Hero was already painful enough, but now he'd flat out labeled me with such a suggestive nickname. However, just as I was about to make a move, a voice from inside the gate ordered them to let me in. After meeting Wei Xiaolan, she stated, As per our agreement, all members of Changgua have been handed over to the authorities. Your debt has also been cancelled, so I wonder what other business the Kong Tong pervert might have. Hearing that, my face turned pale. She was using that cursed nickname too. I told her, Do you really think I came for such trivial matters? As I spoke, I leaned in close to her and said, You promised to call me big brother. That instantly made Wei Xiaolan's face turn bright red. I continued, What the famous young gang leader? Is the Black Dragon Gang going to go back on their word? Hearing this, Wei Xiaolan called out, Big brother, with great reluctance, but I played dumb on the spot and told her louder, I didn't hear you. So Wei Xiaolan, closing her eyes with a beet-red face, screamed, Big brother, is that loud enough? I gave her a satisfied wink and said, The next time we meet, you'd better call me big brother then too. With that, I left the place. The next step was to collect my reward for the competition. But my only worry was, it wouldn't be more of that gay stuff, would it? However, when I opened the door, the scene before me left me completely stunned. A table overflowing, with delicacies, clothes that looked quite elegant, combined with an enchanting scent. It was clear this wouldn't be just any banquet. Then Lin Yuxiang had me sit next to her and picked up a delicious dish. Right as I was opening my mouth to eat, the very next second I instantly snapped back to my senses and knocked the chopsticks out of her hand. What a seductive fox, I almost fell for it. The #1 person of the evil faction couldn't possibly be this nice, to me for no reason. Even if I didn't know her goal, she must be testing my resolve. I couldn't let her manipulate me, I said. Enough, I only came to collect my winnings, not to play games. Then Yu Xiang acted soft and tossed me a pouch of money. She said, here, 200 silver taels. Now can we talk business? With that, she suddenly started to take off her outer clothes. Seeing this, I was stunned and said, what the hell are you doing? Lin Yuxiang said shyly, I've decided. You are my only big brother. Big brother, as long as you want it, I can give you everything. Hearing this, Li Juyu is completely stunned. In my past life, I had heard at a banquet of the Eastern Depot that Lin Yuxiang had never shown her body to any man. Did this woman really have feelings for me? So I asked, hesitantly, would you really do anything, Lin? Yuxiang gave a firm yes, full of anticipation. It seemed like I had already captured half of Lin Yuxiang's heart. I absolutely had to make the most of this opportunity. I said, if you could please help me spread a rumor throughout the martial world. Hearing this, Lin Yuxiang said angrily, you don't want to mess around with me. But you want me to spread rumors for you, I said. Shimin Jinga of the Shimin family will face Li Juyu of the Kong Tong sect, and the loser will become the winner's servant. Then I leaned in close to her and, twirling her hair between my fingers, I told her, Sister Xiang, you'll help me, won't you? Hearing this, Lin Yuxiang said in surprise, Sister Xiang, that's what men call their lovers. Seeing this, I continued, exactly, Sister Xiang, I can only rely on you, Lin Yuxiang said shyly. Since it's Big Brother's request, then I will do it without fail. Hearing that, a mischievous smirk appeared immediately on my lips. Before she could finish, I said please and thank you and left quickly. At that moment, Lin Yuxiang's heart still couldn't calm down. He really called me Sister Xiang. This heart-pounding feeling, it's like being poisoned. Even if Li Juyu proposed to the Sword Empress, it would be fine, because I, Lin Yuxiang, have already become his #1 lover. For my man, of course I'll help him spread the rumor. But that brat dared to play me. How annoying. On my end, I was feeling pretty satisfied with what I had just accomplished. Ever since the defeat of the Black Dragon Gang, the prestige of the Kong Tong sect had been steadily growing. The Simon family would have to accept this match just to save face, and this competition would naturally become a showdown for the strongest rising star of the righteous faction. But one crucial problem remained, finding a referee for the match. Even though competitions within the righteous faction aren't officially in the game, I already had the perfect candidate in mind. A few moments later, as I arrived at the still intact reception hall, the little Sword Empress, Jian Jaban, blocked my path with her sword and said, You Kong Tong playboy? What are you doing here? I suppressed my anger and replied, You aren't evil demons, so why give me such an uncalled-for nickname? Fine, let's just drop it for now. I have something important to discuss with the Sword Empress. Please come back tomorrow. But we're returning to the Hanshan sect tomorrow, so you won't get a chance to see the master. Just then, a resonant voice called out, Young Master Pai, why are you out so early in the night? The person speaking was none other than the Sword Empress Yin Shuilan. After learning I had a request, Yin Shuilan immediately invited me inside. After the usual pleasantries, I stated my purpose for coming directly. My lady, I am about to face the rising star of the Simon family. I was wondering if you would be willing to serve as the referee for this match. Yin Shuilan took a thoughtful sip of tea. She said, You want to face the Simon family? Why should I be the referee? I rushed to explain. I completely understand your concerns. After all, I challenged you in front of everyone. But when I said I would become a man worthy of you in the future, I meant it sincerely. And this competition is the first step toward challenging you properly. I hope you can see my sincerity. Then Yin Shuilan directly voiced her concern. The Kong Tong sect and the Hengshan sect have a grudge, don't they? When the Kong Tong sect declined, the Hengshan sect successfully climbed into the 9 sects and 1 gang, and everyone called us opportunists. Hearing this, I understood the answer immediately. It seemed like it was a no-go. However, the next second, Yin Shuilan suddenly changed her tune and said, But I really admire the growth of a challenger, so I am willing to be your referee. But I have one condition. I'll tell you what it is when the time comes. Hearing this, I expressed my gratitude immediately, but what puzzled me was that the Hanshan sect had always been mysterious in my previous life. There was very little info on them. What could the Sword Empress possibly want from me? The scene shifts to Siemen Huantian harshly questioning, Siemen Xinger, did you really set up a match with the Kong Tong sect now? This news has spread across the entire martial world. The outcome of this match will determine who holds the hegemony. Shinger, why did you have to challenge that Lee guy? Shinger expressed remorse and apologized. I didn't mean to. Seeing this, Shimen, Wantian felt his words were a bit too harsh, so he immediately said in a gentler voice, but as long as you can defeat Lee, everything will be fine. My daughter, are you ready? This is a great chance to trample over the Kong Tong sect. Seeing this, Shimen Shinger's confidence skyrocketed, and she said, Father, please, write the match invitation immediately. I will definitely kick that guy out of the Kong Tong sect. On my side, the rumor I'd asked Yin Shuilin to referee must have circulated enough. But just as I was about to write the invitation for the match, Liu Genwei ran toward me all excited and said, Little brother, the Seaman family just sent you a challenge for the competition. For this match, I've prepared a few special things just for you. This time we have to completely crush the Seaman family. And that's how Liu Genwei taught me the upgraded mixed origin technique. Surprisingly, it was much smoother to use than before, but what I found hard to handle was that Liu Genwei was becoming increasingly hyped. Right then, Liu Genwei suddenly brought up my confession to the Sword Empress and asked if I was for real. That shocked me deep down. Why was senior brother being so blunt? Is he affected by... I directly put my hand on his shoulder and said, my confession to the Sword Empress wasn't actually sincere. The match against the Black Dragon Gang was meant to announce the Kong Tong sect's comeback, so I needed something that would leave a deep impression on everyone. Hearing this, Liu Genwei looked thrilled. Classic. Little brother always thinking so far ahead. I thanked him for understanding, but internally, I knew I had to stay on good terms with the Heavenly Martial Corps. Still, Liu Genwei's over-the-top reaction caught me off guard. Was this really something to be that happy about? A week later, after non-stop training the mixed origin, technique became increasingly effective. But the thing giving me a major headache was that damn reverse blood flow technique. To use the demon sword method, I had to utilize the reverse blood flow technique, but every time it just acted up. What was I supposed to do? The Demon family was taking this competition very seriously. If I didn't prepare properly, I could actually lose. So no matter what it takes, I absolutely had to mastering the circulation technique. Reversed blood flow, and right at that moment some movement suddenly came from the nearby bushes. Yin Shuilan approached and said, I was just walking around the sect. Kong Tong, why are you training in such a remote place? I quickly covered my lower body and said quiet spots make it easier to focus. The Sword Empress also noticed that I looked somewhat exhausted and asked, Is your internal cultivation lacking? I said since a major competition is coming up, I've been a bit anxious lately. Hearing that, the Sword Empress paused for a few seconds. She said, running into each other is a sign of fate. How about I give you a hand? Getting pointers from the legendary Sword Empress was an incredible honor. So I first took an offensive stance and launched a strike with all my might. The result was that the Sword Empress not only blocked it easily but also spotted numerous openings. She said, now, it's your turn to block my attack. As soon as she finished speaking, the Sword Empress launched her attack at me. The fierce offensive forced me into pure defense. She said, the defense of your demon-subduing sword technique is very weak. The next second, she struck at my chest. That sword thrust tore straight through my clothes. After that, the Sword Empress pointed out my current problem. The way of yin and yang is the foundation of the Kong Tong sect. The most fundamental thing is harmony. Reflecting on it, in this life I had indeed focused my arts on endurance training, and the main drive was entirely on developing instantaneous energy. Could this imbalanced training be hindering my growth? Then she reminded me that I could focus my technique on yin-yang, harmony. I had an epiphany because I had been more narrow-minded than before. I had unconsciously rejected yin energy. That's why I had broken the way of yin and yang, and that thing kept standing up. Only yin-yang harmony would allow the mixed origin technique and the reversed blood circulation technique to coexist. So I first used the mixed origin technique to strengthen my internal energy. Then I combined it with the reversed blood circulation technique. Then I unleashed the final form of the demon-subduing sword method on the Sword Empress, the Buddha's guardian demon. The Sword Empress who blocked the strike was very satisfied and praised me. I didn't expect to actually be able to produce sword energy. And this time that thing didn't stand up either. I had finally entered the first-class realm. In my excitement, my exhausted body also began to collapse. Seeing this, the Sword Empress caught me in her arms just in time. Even so, I couldn't help but smile. The moon tonight was truly big and round.